The story begins with the tragic ending of the novel If You Draw Your Sword, Sever the Neck, where the male lead goes mad, burns down the empire, and commits suicide. Dahai, a dedicated editor, is so frustrated with the author over this garbage ending that she gets into a traffic accident on her way to work. When she wakes up, she is shocked to find herself transmigrated into that very novel in the body of Xuana, a low-ranking Saintess apprentice. Realizing that this world is about to be turned into a sea of fire by the male lead, Raffle Winters, according to the plot, Xuana decides she must flee to save her life. She causes a commotion at the temple, announces her resignation, and confronts the High Saintess Maria to reclaim her freedom. However, just as she tastes the air of freedom, a familiar voice rings out, making her realize that the loop of fate may have only just begun. Can a mere side character overturn the cruel ending caused by a madman, or will she be swept away by the flames of the Empire? Let us follow this fascinating series with Lisa Review. The story is retold, starting with a man known as the incarnation of the devil on the battlefield, holding the lifeless body of a woman in his arms and weeping uncontrollably. No matter how many times I return to the past, the result is always the same. She always dies right before my eyes, every single time. If this is the destiny that must be, then I would rather send her off with my own hands. After hundreds of regressions, the devil of the battlefield realizes he can never save his beloved in his despair. He enters the village alone. What is with this fire, you madman? Everywhere he walks, bright red flames cover the ground until the fire consumes the entire empire. When the flames that scorch the empire begin to fade into black ash and there is nothing left to burn, he does not hesitate to slit his own throat. That was the end of the story Dahai was reading. The end. Thank you for loving If You Draw Your Sword, Sever the Neck, until now. Are you actually kidding me right now? 2 streams of tears were already flowing down her face. In her 2 years as an editor, this was the first time an ending had made her cry like this. Dahai helplessly covered her face and thought to herself, author, this is not even romance fantasy or standard fantasy. This is not just a weak ending, it is a total disaster. The other person quickly picked up the phone. Hello, Dahai immediately burst out with her frustrations. Author, what on earth happened to this ending? It is completely different from the plot we originally planned. Her voice, filled with irritation, reached the other end of the line. What kind of romance fantasy ends with the male lead going crazy and turning the empire into a sea of fire? Unexpectedly, the author just calmly and nonchalantly explained, oh, I just liked this version better. The answer made Dahai so helpless, she had to grab her face. If we do not choose this ending, I will cancel the contract. This person is unbelievable. The traffic light turned green for pedestrians. She walked while pleading, cancel the contract, now, do not be like that, author. How about we meet and talk? Absorbed in the phone call, Dahai did not notice the truck approaching her from behind. If we leave it like this, the ending of this novel is just the male lead losing his mind and destroying the world. Readers do not read romance fantasy to expect something else. By the time her eyes widened in horror, it was too late. Dahai took a step, and the vehicle brushed past her. Oh my god, he has definitely lost his mind. Dahai's eyebrows almost touched from anger. She shouted after it, hey, look at how you are driving. What do you think you are doing, running a red light? Unexpectedly, a loud noise rang out right after. Dahai avoided the truck only to meet a car, landing in a heap on the ground. People around her gathered in worry. Are you okay? Someone's been hit here. Dahai thought to herself, ugh, I am so mad. If I knew this was going to happen, I would rather have been hit by that truck earlier. Her thoughts before closing her eyes were all about that car hit by a blue Daxus. Dahai concluded bitterly, it completely ruined my mood. Light appeared again at the sound of someone calling, shoo. The other person's voice rang out noisily, Xuana, wake up, are you going to get up or what? Errol irritably pulled the blanket off Xuana. It is your turn to clean today. She sat up, looking around dazed. Where am I, and who is this girl? Errol continued to pull Xuana's hand. How can a Saintess apprentice like you act like this? Get up now, let us go. Confused, she tried to stop her. Wait a minute. Her new identity slowly sank in. I am a Saintess apprentice. Basic information was quickly absorbed by Xuana. This building was magnificent. She looked into the distance and marveled. It is all a pure white structure. Then she glanced at the people behind her. Everyone was wearing the same uniform. So these are the people they call Saintesses. Xuana thought to herself, I have seen something like this on the news before. If this is not a cult, I will walk on my hands. She kept moving, confirming the information again. Anyway, how did I end up in the body of a Saintess named Xuana? Memories from before her death surfaced. I remember calling the author on my way to work and getting hit by that Daxus. Since I am still conscious, I guess I am not dead yet. Xuana thought dazedly, so I will assume this is just a dream before I wake up. I guess being a romance fantasy editor makes even my dreams overly dramatic. As soon as I wake up, I am going on vacation. I wonder if I will get workers' comp for being hit on the way to the office. At that moment, she noticed something else. A few girls were walking and chatting. Seriously, I am telling you it is true. Xuana looked at them and judged, whether in the real world or in a dream, there are always people living a leisurely life. A dream really does not need to be this realistic. Her footsteps stopped completely, her thoughts in a jumble. Anyway, it is just a dream, so worrying about it will only give me a headache. I should just stay quiet until my body wakes up. Unexpectedly, Xuana had to prick up her ears when a name was mentioned. Did you hear he is about to be granted the title of Earl this time? I am talking about Sir Raffle Winters. The hand holding her things dropped as she listened to the story. Oh, right. I heard he received the Kincreed estate or something like that. Xuana rushed over and asked anxiously, what did you two just say? This action annoyed the other girl immensely. Xuana, what do you think you are doing? Do you still not know your place? However, Xuana interrupted loudly, almost screaming, I asked what you two just said. That attitude made the person opposite her go silent for a moment. She slowly explained, Sir Raffle Winters. He achieved great feats in the recent war, so they say he is coming to the temple to receive the title and estate granted by His Majesty. Xuana murmured, repeating, the estate. Bella continued to explain the implication of her words, the Kincreed estate. Xuana was completely stunned by the next words. You know, the land cursed by the devil. She even had to slap herself to confirm it. This action caused the other girls to wonder aloud. What is wrong with her? I do not know. She has probably finally lost her mind. Ouch, that hurts. Xuana muttered to herself, sever the neck. These words confused the other girls. What? What did you just say? She excitedly grabbed someone by the collar. Then she glared defiantly at the other person. If you draw your sword, sever the neck. Bella turned pale, completely failing to understand the meaning of Xuana's words. What? My neck? However, she let go of her and turned to leave. Raffle Winters, the Kincreed estate, the land cursed by the devil. This is not just a dream. Xuana's heart was filled with terrible visions exactly like in the book. I have been possessed by a side character in my own novel. If you draw your sword, sever the neck. She was so exhausted she collapsed. I got hit by a car while arguing with the author about that ending where the crazy male lead burns the empire and kills himself. It is absolutely ridiculous, but why this novel out of everything? Suddenly, Xuana remembered. Wait, that means. According to the plot, the end result will be that this place will also soon turn into a sea of fire at the hands of the male lead. The more she thought, the angrier Xuana became. What did I do wrong to have to endure this absolute garbage? Author, the people around her could not help but feel confused. What is she talking about? Inside, she was exploding. They say a god took 6 days to create the world, and even rested for 1 day. But for a mere human to ruin the world in just 7 days, even Satan would have to call this crazy male lead, master. Xuana continued to think about everything. I do not care if this is a dream or if I am really possessed. If I just stay still, I will be caught in that fiery ending. I must avoid it at all costs. Another person spoke from behind. Hey, Xuana, are you okay? I do not know what is bothering you, but I am sure there is a solution, so please calm down. Xuana murmured, repeating what the girl had just said, a way to solve it. Right, I am sure there is a way if I think carefully. Bella continued to persuade her. So do not cause trouble here anymore and go back to your room. Unexpectedly, Xuana declared directly, let us escape. She was completely taken aback. What? Bella began to question her. Hey, How can you say something so indifferent so casually? You should not say things like that, even as a joke. However, Xuana was already busy thinking about her own grand plan. Yes, if I stay here, I am just waiting to die. She pondered, carefully calculating. From what I remember, Raffle repeated several regressions after receiving the title of Earl. I do not know which regression Raffle is currently on, but if this is before the title is granted, there is still time before the fiery end occurs. Then she quickly made a decision. So, the first thing I need to do now is... Xuana asked the person opposite her, how do I get out of the temple? This sudden question made Bella freeze. What? Were you actually serious about escaping earlier? She kindly reminded her, talk sense, Xuana. Don't you know what happens to a Saintess who abandons the gods? You are not even planning to quit being a Saintess, so how do you intend to leave? Unexpectedly, these words opened a new door for Xuana. So I can leave if I quit my job, right? This statement surprised the listener even more. What did you just say? Only Xuana herself felt confused. No. Why are they overreacting when I just said I am quitting? She hurried a few steps, intending to leave. Well, anyway, I just need to walk out, right? I am going. Unexpectedly, at that moment, Xuana bumped hard into someone. The collision sent her falling to the ground. A deep voice rang out from the opposite side, leaving. Maria questioned coldly, did I just hear you say you are leaving the temple, Xuana? Her appearance made the crowd cry out in shock. Hi, Saintess Maria. Xuana looked up, one hand clutching her swollen cheek. She observed the other girls bowing their heads and thought, looking at her appearance, she seems to be someone with seniority here. In that case, I will just tell her. However, Xuana still smiled brightly and declared boldly, yes, I am leaving. Before she could finish her sentence, she was grabbed. So if you could move out of the way for a bit. Maria leaned in close, warning coldly, when you leave this temple, you are not permitted to take anything with you. She continued slowly, though that, of course, excludes the mediocre body that has betrayed the gods. Xuana replied calmly, I understand. This reaction was beyond Maria's expectations. You just... Xuana repeated once more, I said I will leave on my own 2 feet. The next words she uttered were extremely sarcastic. Oh, I do not need to use honorifics anymore, do I? Maria shouted after her, you little brat. However, Xuana did not even pay her any mind. Whatever. She just kept running straight ahead. You think saying that will make me stay? The guard outside was slightly surprised to see Xuana. He called out, Saintess, where are you going? But Xuana cut him off. I am not a Saintess anymore. I just quit. Her steps were as fast as flying, as if gliding. Xuana looked excited, feeling the surrounding air. Ah, the sweet air of freedom I have been longing for. She thought to herself, it was terrible meeting all of you, let us never meet again. Only to be completely disillusioned by the call. Xuana, wake up, are you going to get up or what? A question immediately flashed in her mind. What is this? Xuana almost bolted upright, startling Errol beside her. Errol was slightly shocked by Xuana's scream. Have you lost your mind? Why did you suddenly scream like that? When she saw her, she was incredibly surprised. Wait, did not I just leave? Errol looked at Xuana with a strange gaze. What the hell is she talking about? Do you think just anyone can walk out of the temple? She emphasized a fact, someone like you would be finished the moment you set foot outside. As soon as these words were finished, Xuana's pupils widened. No, I am sure I already left the temple. She remembered clearly running away from the temple that time. Her memory was still very vivid. There was no way all that was just a dream. And when she opened her eyes again, it was Errol's repeated action. But the moment I left the temple, I was brought back to the exact moment I had just entered this body. Raffle's eyes appeared clearly in her mind. No way. By now, Xuana could not think any further. Like Raffle Winters, have I regressed as well? Immediately, she rushed out of bed. I am quitting. I am not being a Saintess anymore. Errol could not react in time. What? She could only grab Xuana's hand and pull her back. Wait, stay calm. Errol loudly reminded her of the day's tasks. Who gave you permission to quit whenever you want? Do you realize it is your turn to clean today? Then she irritably questioned her about the nun's collar. Furthermore, you have the audacity to try to leave while wearing the Saintess necklace. Xuana touched the pendant around her neck and thought, this necklace. Thinking of Maria, she sighed again. The High Priestess already took it earlier anyway. It is no big deal for a cheap necklace like this. After thinking it over, Xuana also took off the holy object. Fine, here, satisfied, stop bothering me. Once finished, she hurried away, leaving Errol with only one sentence. All you wanted was this necklace, right? I will borrow these clothes then. As her silhouette faded, Errol finally showed a look of panic. I only mentioned the necklace to scare her. Is she really going to leave? By now, Xuana's steps were extremely hurried. She could not wait another second, recounting everything in her mind. First, I have to see if I can actually leave the temple. If I regress every time I try to step out, then I can't do anything to stop that sea of fire ending. Xuana closed her eyes and took a risk. If I die here, there might be no way back. Everything will end. I can't let that happen at any cost. She quickly dashed out the door. The gatekeeper saw Xuana and called out, Saintess, where are you going? Xuana was determined not to look back. I am done being a Saintess. The soldier was left standing there with a wig lying on the ground. He carefully leaned down to pick it up. Oh, I see. Outside, Xuana ran headlong. Just standing there doubting won't change anything. Her breathing became much faster. So, for now, only a few steps remained for Xuana to leave the temple. She declared to herself, I have to see it for myself with my own eyes. Xuana's first step touched the ground after leaving the cathedral. She was silent, as if waiting to wake up again. Xuana broke into a sweat and glanced back. Absolutely nothing happened. She had successfully escaped the cathedral. There was no strange phenomenon inside at all. Only then could Xuana breathe steadily. I have left the temple, and I have not regressed. Her face lit up, as radiant as the morning sun. Thus, Xuana joyfully ran around everywhere. In that case, I should get out of here as fast as possible. Taking a walk around, she glanced everywhere. I guess leaving the temple does not always trigger regression. Xuana stood dazed in the middle of the road. I rushed away just to be safe, but where is this? She realized one thing, a village. This village was right next to the temple. A bold thought flashed through Xuana's mind. Maybe I can gather some information here to help with my escape. However, people seemed quite strange without her knowing. The novel only mentioned the Kincrete estate, so I do not even know where I am. Thinking this, Xuana instinctively walked on. Let us just wander a bit and see. While not paying attention, she collided with a young man on the street. Xuana fell straight to the ground. The man merely clicked his tongue irritably. She looked after him in a daze, thinking, did he just click his tongue at me? What a total lunatic. Just then, the man muttered, what bad luck. These words went straight into Xuana's ears. He was the one who bumped into my shoulder, yet why does he have that attitude toward me? Suddenly, another voice came through. Mom, look, that person who just fell looks like a Saintess. The boy was about to say more, look at the patterns on her clothes, but his mother sternly reminded him, quiet down right now. Her attitude became extremely harsh. Anyone without a Saintess necklace is not a Saintess. She is no different from a wicked devil. The boy's eyes widened in confusion. A devil. Xuana thought for a moment. Saintess necklace. Wait, that necklace I just threw back at them. She then scratched her head as she realized the problem. Did that bastard earlier act like that just because I did not have a necklace? What is this? Is this some kind of extreme cult world that considers someone a monster just because they do not have a necklace? I have never seen a setting like this in the novel. Seeing this, the boy looked back and thought, what a strange person. Mom was right. She is definitely a devil. After thinking for a while, Xuana calmed herself down. No, wait. Thinking back, was there any part in the novel that mentioned Saintesses or the temple? While she was plotting a new direction, a stone flew from nowhere and hit her. If you draw your sword, sever the neck was originally just a story about the desperate love between a noble lady and a mad knight. The stone hit her right on the forehead, causing Xuana to bleed. She stared in shock as red blood covered her hands. Only one word was in her head, blood. The nearby villagers began to whisper to each other, which get out of our village immediately. The lack of a necklace led to the situation, which Shwana completely did not expect. Go back to the hell where you belong. How dare a witch like you walk so boldly on our streets? She was stunned for a long time. I can't understand anything that is happening here anymore. It turned out because I know this novel, and this setting originally did not exist at all. On the endless long road, Shwana's thoughts were in a tangled mess. Is this really the world of, if you draw your sword, sever the neck, or have I accidentally strayed into some cult's Bible? Suddenly, she tripped over a tree root under her feet. Immediately after, Shwana fell flat on the ground. The pain made her quite uncomfortable. It hurts so much. I am all scratched up. Why is this happening to me? Bella's words flashed through her mind. Don't you know what happens to a saintess who abandons the gods? Even Errol's words had served as a reminder. Someone like you, the moment you leave. The corners of Shwana's lips curled in mockery. So that is what she meant. She should have at least been a bit more specific. Night fell, and the space held only the light of the stars. Wandering in the forest, Shwana came across something. She stood silent before a strange house. Where did this house come from? Without thinking too much, Shwana knocked politely on the door. Just a second ago, there was nothing here but forest. Shwana searched her memory. I guess since this is a novel, a house would appear just when I am exhausted. She called out into the house. Hello, is anyone inside? There was no answer. Shwana walked in anyway. I am sorry for intruding, but could I stay for just one night? The gloomy silence made her startle slightly. A strange thing was, the door opened automatically. Once again, Shwana tried to ask, excuse me. There were a few shadows on the wall. May I come in? She glanced up and muttered to herself, there really is no one here. Suddenly, the door slammed shut. Shwana was paralyzed for a few seconds, her heart almost stopping. It must just be the wind. A thought flashed in her mind. That means this place has been abandoned. Ignoring her previous thought, Shwana collapsed wearily on the ground. Whatever, I am too tired to care. Even if the owner comes back, I have to sleep first. She closed her eyes and lulled herself to sleep. Whoever the owner is, I am so sorry. I will clean this place up before I go, so please let me stay for just one night. Shwana prayed solemnly, and when I wake up, I hope all of this was just a dream. The next morning, when the sun was already at its zenith, the light made her suddenly wake up. Shwana stretched. No miracle had occurred. Just as I thought, it is not a dream. Shwana looked down at the ground. She wondered, what is this? Why did my clothes get so stiff overnight? She grumbled and stood up. Then she discovered something beneath her feet. Shwana spoke wearily. I am already hungry just from moving. It would be great if there was somewhere delicious nearby. She pushed the door open and stepped outside. Then she glanced back slightly. Her eyes accidentally met those of a female demon. Shwana's face briefly showed a hint of surprise. Glowing red eyes stared intently at Shwana. Its hand lunged toward her accompanied by a bone-chilling shriek. And yet, Shwana ultimately just turned away nonchalantly as if nothing had happened. As Shwana was about to leave the abandoned house, a strange voice rang out. Shwana put her hand to her neck and glanced toward the sound. Hey, you there! A middle-aged man pointed at the house with a suspicious look. Did you just come out of that house? She turned her head in confusion. Me, yes, that is right. Upon hearing that, he rushed over in a panic, his eyes wide with shock. So you actually slept in there? Shwana instinctively raised her hand to cover her face. You are spitting on my face, sir. He did not care and kept pressing her with strange questions. Didn't you hear any weird noises while you were in that house? She raised her hands awkwardly. No, before Shwana could finish, the man's face showed excessive worry. Like the sound of something dragging or someone crying. Her face was a mask of confusion. Listen, He continued to ask about spiritual signs. Or do you feel pain anywhere, like being suffocated or unable to move? His words reminded her of something an old person once said. Look here, student, do you have any aches or pains? It is all because of your family's ancestral spirits. Back then, Shwana just ran away screaming, I do not believe in that stuff. Right now, she thought to herself, Why does this story smell like a familiar kind of energy? To escape, Shwana decided to use the ultimate tactic. In times like these, running away as fast as possible is the best low-tier strategy. She calmly turned to leave, making him stop her in surprise. "Hey, where are you going?" Seeing Shwana running further away, the man shouted anxiously, "Are you really sure you are okay?" She complained inwardly, "So noisy. I am hungry and he is wasting my time." Shwana prayed silently. Life is hard enough. It is best if we never meet again. And the next day, a strange man rushed into the garden while she was relaxing. He pointed at her in a panic. "Hey, you went into that house and you are actually fine," Shwana pondered. "Is this place some kind of urban legend spot for the locals?" The day after that, another person could not believe their eyes seeing her exit through the front door. Why are you coming out of there? Didn't you hear anything inside?" Shwana nonchalantly stretched and replied, "Yes, I slept like a baby." And then the following day, another woman saw her and approached hesitantly. "Excuse me, could it be?" Shwana, lying on the grass, answered habitually, "I am not sick. I did not hear anything, and my mind is perfectly fine. If you are not going to give me money, just move along." That evening, her patience had completely evaporated. Shwana clenched her fists and screamed in rage, "No! What the hell is going on? I am not a monkey in a zoo. Why does everyone keep asking me as if I am definitely supposed to be sick?" After venting for a while, she calmed down and clicked her tongue. She frowned gloomily, her hands clenched. "Does anyone think I am doing this because I like it here?" Afterward, Shwana lay down on the bed, trying to push all thoughts out of her head. "Forget it. Do not think about it anymore. The more I think, the more depressed I get." She closed her eyes and prayed in exhaustion. "Please, tomorrow." In her heart, a sense of loneliness surfaced. "I hope I can wake up in my original world." Suddenly, a strange hand appeared and rested on her shoulder. A pitch-black space, filled with terrifying handprints, enveloped Shwana. It seemed she was having a terrifying nightmare, as a maw filled with sharp teeth was about to swallow her whole. A dark aura surrounded her. Then, a knock on the door rang out, causing her to wake up with a start. Shwana bolted up, turning toward the door with a face full of fear. The knocking continued steadily in the silent space, but she just stared at the large door. Shwana looked toward the door, feeling extreme anxiety. "Please do not tell me this house is not empty. Oh, I am screwed." First, the door. After a while, she opened the door to find a tall young man with blonde hair standing in front of her. Shwana hesitated. "Excuse me, are you the owner?" She cried inwardly, trying to justify herself. "I am really, really, really sorry. I am not the type of person who just enters someone's house without permission." Standing before Shwana was a handsome young man with extremely refined features. His blonde hair highlighted his face. She continued to explain, "But yesterday, there were unavoidable circumstances." Even while explaining, seeing the other person's statue-like features, Shwana could not help but marvel. Oh, a rare top-tier specimen of a man. But her fangirling was immediately extinguished as Michael suddenly ordered the two soldiers behind him to step forward. The two men approached and stood on either side of her, escorting her away. To Shwana's confused and shocked face, Michael read her name and identity aloud. "Former Saintess, Shwana." Then, he spoke the accusation. "You are under arrest on charges of being a witch who worships evil spirits." Shwana's jaw dropped. "What?" Michael explained calmly. "There have been reports of a Saintess who specifically seeks out and lives in houses possessed by evil spirits." Hearing this, her face turned pale. "What?" Shwana lost her cool and shouted in grievance, "No, which bastard reported a law-abiding citizen like me?" She was extremely bewildered. "And evil spirits, what on earth does that mean? This is not a spiritual horror novel. It is a romance fantasy." As she spoke, Shwana suddenly felt something was off. "Spiritual? What are you talking about? Are there really things like evil spirits or demons here?" At this point, Michael pointed to the house behind her, the one she had just stepped out of, and every place she had stayed so far. He raised a hand to cover part of his face, his sharp golden eyes, filled with killing intent, peeking through his fingers. "Because they have been seized by evil spirits. Those are places where a normal person would die the moment they approached." Shwana was full of sarcasm inwardly. They say having delusions of grandeur is a blessing that usually only comes during puberty. Seeing her fed-up expression, Michael questioned, "Why is your face like that, you witch?" Shwana let out a forced smile and explained awkwardly, "No, it is just that this is too ridiculous. Honestly, in this day and age, especially in a romance fantasy novel setting, where would you even find things like ghosts and demons?" Then, she shouted defiantly, "Why do not you just come out and say you can see ghosts too?" The two soldiers escorting Shwana looked at each other awkwardly. Her face immediately turned white. "Is it for real?" He did not even bother to argue and coldly ordered, "Drag her away." On a clear morning, sunlight filtered through the leaves, creating a peaceful moment until a helpless voice rang out, "No, I told you I am not a witch." Shwana began to struggle. "Let me go." Suddenly, Michael reached out and pushed her forward. This caused Shwana to lose her balance and thud onto the ground. Then, he spoke slowly, "By your command." Before her now was a woman with a triumphant smile, her face obscured by a lace veil. Michael spoke solemnly, "I have captured the servant of evil spirits, High Saintess." The abbess praised him. "Well done, Holy Knight Commander Michael." He struck his fist against his chest and replied, "It was nothing. I simply did what a son of Moandala should do." At that moment, a voice rang out that startled the abbess. "Excuse me, High Saintess." Shwana knelt on the ground, her voice pleading. "As you can see, I am truly being wronged here. I really evil spirits, witches I do not know anything about those things." She spoke without knowing a dark shadow was looming over her. "So, if you could just untie this first." The abbess leaned down, her voice cold. "How pitiful." Shwana's face froze and she stammered, "Because you are a servant of evil spirits, you cannot be saved." What does that mean?" She felt incredibly frustrated. What kind of nonsense is this? Who exactly is calling who a servant of evil spirits? However, the woman turned away. It cannot be helped. Before leaving, she turned back and said, "We have no choice but to proceed with the ritual." Suddenly, she sensed a plume of black smoke. Shwana stared at the thing before her eyes. "Is that a burning stake?" Her hands were tied behind her back. "You crazy bastards, don't do this. I told you not to do this." Shwana's entire body was tied tightly. This is ridiculous." She looked into the killing eyes of the abbess. "Have you all actually gone mad?" She looked at the torch in the woman's hand. "Am I really going to die like this? What did I do wrong? I just wanted to live." The person held the flaming torch and slowly walked toward her. "Sir, don't light it," she pleaded in fear. "Don't light it. I am really not a witch." Shwana screamed in anger, "I will sue you all at the Human Rights Commission." The other party threatened her. "You damn side characters, do you think you will be safe forever?" Two women looked at her and whispered, "Anyway, sooner or later, this place will end in a sea of fire too." The flames grew larger. She was so scared she shut her eyes tight. "No, please, someone. Someone save me, this fire." Just as her vision faded to black, she saw the abbess. The woman looked at her with a triumphant smile. "Extinguish it." Shwana's voice was weak as she continued to plead. At that moment, she woke up. Errol stood before her, speaking with dissatisfaction. "Are you going to get up or what? It is your turn to clean today." Shwana still could not escape the fear. What just happened? The pain of being burned in those flames. It is still so vivid. Her hands clutched the blanket, trembling. "Did I come back again?" Then she called out, "Errol." The girl replied with her hands on her hips. Shwana asked hesitantly, "Have you ever seen a witch trial?" Errol asked in confusion. "Where did this come from all of a sudden? Did you have a nightmare or something?" Errol began to recount. "I have seen witch trials maybe twice when I was young. Both were saintesses. They were burned alive at the stake for the crime of running away, because they could not stand life. At the temple." Shwana's hands were dripping with sweat. "But, you are not planning to use a nightmare as an excuse to skip your shift, are you?" She was terrified. "Coming back again means that until this novel ends, I can't escape even if I die." Errol felt confused seeing her attitude. Then she angrily pointed straight at her face. "You ask a question, and then ignore me, what? Are you planning to act all high and mighty just because you are someone's daughter? No matter how much of a fuss you make, you are still just a Saintess apprentice doing chores all day like me. She did not care and forced her to go clean. Shuana started to get annoyed. If you understand, then go clean right now. She suddenly flew into a rage and kicked off the blanket. Look at you, clean, clean, clean. Is clean the only word you know? Errol was taken aback. Shuana. She jumped up and shook Errol. I am a Saintess just like you. I am not your private servant. At this point, Shuana's face was flushed, and she suddenly realized, are you crying? You look like you have been about to die of a fever for the past few days. And even though I have been doing your work for 10 days, you dare ignore me. Errol lowered her head, her voice sobbing. I was so scared last night, because it looked like you were not breathing anymore. Hearing this, Shuana thought, does me waking up at this exact moment every time I regress mean the original Shuana actually died? This girl might be annoying, but she must have suffered a lot. Then she quickly smiled and apologized. I am sorry. I will do your share of the cleaning for the next 10 days. Errol asked suspiciously, really? She began to flatter her, making the girl feel a bit proud. Of course. Just tell me which area is yours and which is mine. After all, you are the senior who knows this temple better than I do. Errol finally gave in. The bottom of the barrel, Shuana has finally come to her senses. Good. Just trust your senior. Shuana rejoiced inwardly, piece of cake. Then the two of them left together. So, let us start with the kitchen. It needs cleaning today. Yes, I am counting on your guidance, senior. Shuana just smiled and did not reply. Once she gained the trust of the people in the temple, her heart was full of determination. And gather the information I need, I will finally be able to escape this damn cult. At the temple, someone was shuffling along, sweeping the courtyard. Shuana tiredly wiped her sweat. Thanks to Errol, who happily explained everything because she enjoyed being treated like a senior for the past few days. Errol then went to say something to her. Shuana imagined a room with countless documents scattered on the floor. She felt briefly confused realizing the problems she faced. I even found the records room where Saintess's personal information is kept. The problem is, as an apprentice, I do not have the authority to enter. What should I do? Suddenly, a voice came from somewhere. Don't you think she has been quite hardworking lately? Two nuns were gossiping animatedly. Who, you know, the Baron's daughter. Bottom of the barrel, Shuana. But, you know what? The next piece of information shocked Shuana immensely. She is actually not the Baron's daughter. She gasped inwardly. What? One nun was confused. What do you mean? Shuana quietly hid behind a wall, feeling bewildered. Shuana is not his biological daughter. She tried to recall old memories. I heard that too. Apparently, they found evidence that the Baroness had an affair, so the Baron refused to recognize her as his child. That is why he never let her take his last name and locked her in the attic until she was 9. Only to sell her to the temple as soon as she turned 10. Both nuns were slightly concerned. Would he really do that if he were sure she was his daughter? True. Shuana walked away, her heart heavy from the tragic story of the host. Poor Shuana. I did not know she had such a past. Whether it is the real owner of this body or me, surviving in this trash world is equally difficult. Paul called out loudly into the room. Shuana, Shuana, are you there? Shuana turned her head when she heard her name. She smiled radiantly and warmly answered Paul. Were you looking for me, Uncle Paul? Paul asked enthusiastically. There you are. Where are you cleaning tomorrow? Shuana hesitated for a moment then replied. In the library. Paul pointed at the other nuns and complained. When will it be your turn to come back to the kitchen? Those people can't do even a fraction of what you do. Shuana blushed and held one cheek. Uncle Paul, please do not be so hard on them. I am just grateful that my humble efforts meet your strict standards. Thinking that I can be of help to head chef Paul, who manages the meals for this holy temple, I am so moved I do not know what to do. Paul smiled proudly. Look at this gift. He suddenly changed the subject. How old are you? Shuana replied calmly. I will be 18 next month. Paul whispered in her ear. I will talk to Barbara so you can become an official Saintess when you are of age. Remember that. Shuana was so surprised she jumped. That is. She placed both hands on her chest and shook her head in refusal. An official saintess, someone like me, I would not dare. Paul gently comforted her. Come now, Xuana. You are too humble. Just trust me. Her face showed clear embarrassment. Uncle Paul. Though she still smiled kindly while saying goodbye to Paul, deep down she was secretly triumphant. This will definitely happen 1,000,000%. I became an official saintess in the previous timeline too, so it is a certainty. I wonder which timeline this is now. To become an official saintess, she needed a level of diligence, obedience, and humility that everyone knew her name, and even had to possess a terrifying level of piety. If she just clasped her hands outside the prayer room every late night, pretending to be devout while shedding a few tears, the high saintess would appear, smiling with her fake benevolence, and the next day, she would become an official saintess. Damn it, it is exactly the same every time. The problem is what happens next. The abbess smiled wickedly, her hand summoning a swirl of blue magic. Xuana, may Moandala's light always watch over you. The abbess quickly performed the ritual on Xuana in the cathedral. Magic flames rose from her downturned palm. A moment later, a six-pointed star symbol appeared on the back of Xuana's hand. She frantically slapped it, trying to extinguish the flame. It is so hot. Everyone in the room stared at Xuana in amazement. The guards hurriedly pointed their swords at her. Death by the pain of the stigma. The space shifted like a clock face appearing. The moment Xuana was tormented by the flames was rewound. However, having gone through several regressions, now she could endure something as simple as the back of her hand being burned by fire. Xuana raised her hand marked with the sign, her face strangely calm. The abbess nodded in satisfaction. Xuana clasped her hands, maintaining a stiff smile. How tedious. It is done. Only after dying several times did she realize the only way to leave the temple safely was to go on a purification mission, a task reserved exclusively for official saintesses. A cloak was placed on Xuana's shoulders. The abbess announced, there is an investiture ceremony for an earl tomorrow morning. Since this is your first event as an official saintess, remember to attend. Xuana obediently bowed her head. Yes, I understand, High Saintess. It truly had been a long and arduous journey, if one could call it that. As soon as the ceremony mentioned by that witch of a High Saintess ended, she would accept the purification mission and immediately flee the temple. Or so she thought. Horror was evident on Xuana's face. She frowned deeply, her eyes wide in shock. Xuana's eyes were fixed on Raffle, who was surrounded by a thick dark aura. So the main character of today's event is you, Raffle Winters. The abbess spoke first. His Majesty has granted the title of Earl along with the Kincreed estate. Raffle did not reply to her at all. The entire hall fell into a long silence. Xuana was briefly confused by the other party's surly attitude. What is he doing? Just say thank you and get it over with. Undeterred, the abbess continued, Earl Raffle Winters, I trust you will continue to devote yourself to the Empire. May the Master of the Sky. May the protection of Moandala always be with you. Xuana startled slightly, clearly sensing a stare from Raffle. Facing that blunt gaze, she could not help but panic. What is this? He is totally glaring at me right now, is not he? He looks terrifying. That is definitely the face of someone who destroys the world. I am looking down not because I am scared. Okay, it is just a waste of energy to pick a fight. Right. Raffle still did not utter a single word, just intently watching Xuana. A dark, cold, moss-covered cave cliff. Malik reminded her tensely, watch your step, Saintess. On the contrary, Xuana was calm, looking around as she walked and humming a tune. Yes, I know. She glanced around the scenery. What is there in here that needs purifying? No matter how I look at it, this is just a normal cave. Anyway, purification is not my real concern. Now that Raffle Winters has his title, I am really running out of time. I need to run away as soon as possible before that guy loses his mind and burns down the Empire. Not paying attention, Xuana tripped over a small rock on the path. She fell forward. Malik spun around anxiously. Saintess. He asked about her condition. Are you all right? Xuana clutched her calf in pain but still lowered her voice to reassure Malik. I am fine. It is just a small scratch. Malik looked at the scratch and stammered. Saintess, this wound. Suddenly, Malik screamed, "Oh no, please, let us leave here quickly." Shwana was startled by the scream. "What?" Malik explained. "Don't demons love the scent of blood? Please, let us get out before the evil energy seeps into you." Shwana realized and looked at him awkwardly. Here we go again. Evil spirits again. This crazy cult. Shwana suddenly burst into tears, two streams rolling down her cheeks. "But even so, I still have to keep acting, right, Sir Malik? It is too late for me." Shwana's eyes were brimming with tears. "Please run and leave me behind. I will only attract the demons." Malik drew his sword and stood before her. "I cannot abandon the Saintess to save myself." She clasped her hands together and spoke in a pleading voice. "Sir Malik, how can you be so brave? The light of Moandala is shining upon you. O Lord, you who watch over us amidst the chaos, glorious Moandala. You request my devotion, and this humble servant shall answer with unwavering faith." Malik was embarrassed, his cheeks flushing slightly. How could that be? Shwana let out a long sigh. What a fool. Look at his face. Does he really think a miracle happens every time someone prays? She continued to pray. There is no place Moandala's eyes do not see, and no place Moandala's hand does not reach. Meanwhile, Malik gritted his teeth and suddenly swept her up, catching Shwana completely off guard. Malik carried Shwana straight to the cave entrance, pleading, "Saintess, please, continue the purification prayer, so we can leave this place together." She thought in disappointment, "The first time I am ever princess carried, and it is by this idiot. I hate this." 3 cloaked figures stood ready at the cave's mouth. One of them stammered, pointing straight inside. They rushed frantically toward the figures that had just stepped out. Shwana suddenly spoke up. "Every path I am led upon brings me closer to him." The 3 figures looked at her with dazed expressions, as if they had just realized a profound truth. The whole group suddenly erupted in celebration. Shwana was stunned by their reaction. In this cult, the fact that she was injured but still escaped without a major incident was clearly seen as quite miraculous. She put on a bewildered face. Her piety was ultimately praised even more. What, is this really worth making such a fuss about? Since that day. At that moment, they suddenly spoke. "In that case, we are counting on you for this purification mission as well, Saintess." Shwana stepped into a pitch-black room, the door slamming shut behind her with a terrifying sound. "I have been assigned to an even more dangerous area. I should have just run out through the back exit of that cave. If I do not want to be burned at the stake again, I have no choice but to pretend to work hard. But seriously, are there actually monsters or ghosts here?" Sword to the neck was not exactly a spiritual setting, yet there are so many rumors about ghosts and demons. Even though I have not seen a single one. Night enveloped the forest as an old woman stood alone before her door. Someone carefully approached the old woman. It was Shwana. She thought to herself, then clasped her hands in prayer. "I burned that old doll, so I guess that counts as purification. The purification prayer is finished. May the Lord always be with us." The old woman looked up at her. "Thank you so much, Saintess." The old woman held out a small pouch. Saintess, I promise." Seeing this, Shwana blurted out, "Oh my, I am not doing this for material gain." The woman tossed the pouch straight into her palm. "No, please take it." Shwana laughed excitedly in her mind. "Thank you, madam." Shwana strode along the edge of the forest, her mind constantly calculating. Purification in this world is not much different from being an exorcist back home, and thanks to the tips I receive each time, my escape fund is slowly growing. If I had what I got today, I have enough to run away right now. Suddenly, a call came from behind her, Saintess Shwana. She spun around the moment she heard the voice. The person continued, "I apologize for being late." The man took step after step towards Shwana. She immediately recognized his identity, the guy who kept clinging to her every time she went out. Michael greeted her respectfully. "It is an honor to meet you. I am the Holy Knight Commander, Michael Severino." Shwana replied with a smile, "Yes, hello. It is a pleasure to meet you for the first time." In her heart, resentment had already flared up. This was the man who had falsely accused her of being a witch and caused her to be burned alive the first time. Michael reported the mission's progress. "By order of the High Saintess, I have completed the protection of the area near the purification zone. Shuana interlaced her fingers, bowing her head slightly in sincerity. Since the High Saintess and the Knight Commander are protecting my back, I should offer a prayer of thanks before beginning. Please let that old hag and this bastard die a miserable death. Michael was touched. Thank you, Saintess. He asked for Shuana's opinion. Shall we go? I will lead the way. Shuana agreed out loud, but inwardly she cursed. Yes, please. I hope he trips and falls flat on his face. The two stopped in front of a house hidden behind tall bushes. She could not hide her extreme joy. This place. Is not this the house where I stayed overnight the first time I was outside the temple? This is basically a golden opportunity for me to escape. At that moment, Michael unexpectedly recounted, previously, other Saintesses entered this mansion only to be possessed by evil spirits and meet a tragic end. Therefore, if you feel a dark presence, flee immediately. Because if you are tainted by evil spirits, I will have no choice but to execute you with my own hands. Shuana suddenly interrupted, that won't happen. Because the great and glorious Moandala is always with me. Michael fixed a cautious gaze on Shuana. He stood guard outside the house. Shuana secretly watched Michael through the window. What an unpleasant guy. I had to work so hard to stop him from insisting on coming inside. Useless guy. Anyway, this house. I thought it only had one floor. But there is a second floor too. Should I go up there? There is even furniture. I guess people really did live here before. Wow, there are even clothes. This is a truly sincere hallelujah of thanks. Good. I should not look like a saintess in this state, right? I remember there being a back door in the kitchen. If I go that way, I can avoid that bastard's line of sight. Found it. Now, if I just open this door, I can say goodbye to this damn cult. The full moon illuminated the entire night. Someone gently pushed a door open. It seemed something ahead had caught Shuana's eye. It was a pair of tall black boots and a long cloak. Even without seeing the face, just the sight made her hesitate. Shuana looked up with fearful eyes. Damn it, I have been caught. Countless thoughts flashed through her mind. That damn holy knight, how did he find me? No, wait. The tall Raffle stood blocking Shuana's path. Her hands trembled as she pointed straight at his face and asked, Why are you here? Suddenly, Raffle closed the distance to Shuana. He drew a sharp dagger from his person. Raffle covered Shuana's mouth with his hand, and not only that, he pressed the knife toward her. Their eyes met, filled with killing intent. He let out a faint smile and murmured, Just as I thought. Raffle stared at Shuana with blood-red eyes. You are not afraid of death at all. He released his hand from her mouth but still warned, Shout and you are dead, you scruffy saintess. Shuana looked at Raffle with a vengeful gaze. Why are you doing this to a scruffy saintess who has never even left the temple? If you kill me, the holy knight with me will execute you. Is that really true? He pointed the knife at her and replied calmly, What is the big deal about killing a fleeing saintess who could not endure the curse? Shuana scowled and thought, he has a point. Not wanting to waste time beating around the bush, she got straight to the point. So, what business do you have with me? Raffle smiled, seemingly just wanting to justify himself. It really was not my imagination back at the temple. He looked into Shuana's eyes and thought, even in this situation, she is not afraid of me. She seems to resent me, even though we have never met before. Her tone was serious, as if threatening him. Earl Winters, private contact with a saintess is forbidden. I will call the holy knight right now. Raffle did not leave immediately but gently reminded her, I believe I told you that if you shout, you will die. Shuana remembered clearly but did not want to pay him any mind. As if I care. You are the one interfering with my work right now. Even if I die here, I will just start over from the beginning. Don't let him get to me. Still, it would be quite troublesome. As expected, the clothes Shuana was wearing were a fatal point. Interfering, then let me ask you one thing. Why are you wearing something that is not even a saintess's cloak during working hours? Raffle was just stating his observation. Especially an outfit reeking of the resentment of the dead. His words made her worry quite a bit. Resentment of the dead. Resentment of the dead. Is he the type of person who can see those things because of this world setting too? Shuana took a few steps forward. Whatever, not my business. Just gotta get out of here first. And yet, she was blocked by Raffle. Shwena shouted at him angrily, "Get out of the way." Raffle pointed the knife at her and asked, "Where do you think you are going?" Before Shwena could answer, he rattled off more. "Why should you care? Just move. Have you already been possessed by evil spirits? Your footsteps are no longer your own, Saintess." Due to the sharp blade right in front of her, Shwena was a bit worried. "No. Look, listen to me first." Raffle had not even finished his sentence before she dared to attack him. "You are merely moving according to the will of the evil spirit residing in those clothes." Shwena gritted her teeth and cursed inwardly. "I have heard enough of this nonsense. Listen to me, you damn male lead." Even Raffle was stunned by this situation. He let out a smile, seemingly finding it amusing. Raffle put away the knife and said, "I knew I did not see wrong." He looked down and stated firmly, "You are no ordinary Saintess." Shwena knitted her brows, her tone irritable. "Stop that annoying smirk right now. It is an eyesore. Can you tell me exactly what you saw at the investiture ceremony that is making you act like this?" Raffle was silent for a few seconds, looking at her with a smile. Shwena stood there awkwardly, not knowing what to say, and then a name appeared, Errol. She recalled the time she was scolded by Errol at the cathedral. Shwena closed her eyes, trying to suppress an explosion of anger. I wonder if he felt like this when I ignored what he said that day. But her real anger could no longer be contained. "Earl, you do not have any friends, do you? You have never actually had a decent conversation with anyone before, have you?" These words seemed to strike Raffle's pride. "What did you say?" Shwena continued to vent a long tirade at him. "You are completely unable to empathize or understand others, are not you? Does the atmosphere suddenly turn icy whenever you speak at a gathering? Does everything only liven up once you have left? You have absolutely no idea how to socialize, do you?" The more she listened, the more Raffle's killing intent radiated intensely. "If you want to extract information, why do not you go learn how to talk to people first? Did no one give you this advice when you were preparing to become an earl?" I said all those things, but he was not always this kind of person. Digging back into his past, back to when Raffle Winters was an escort knight. His first regression began after the death of Lady Celendia Dawson, the woman he had risked his life to protect. Despite Raffle's best efforts, everything seemed impossible. Raffle traveled back in time hundreds of times to save her, but the result was always failure. Sickened by the endless repetition of life, his emotions gradually rotted and decayed. And finally, he could only move toward the future after ending her life with his own hands. That was what formed the Raffle of now, but even after that, the mysterious regressions did not end. A man trapped in a loop, who ultimately became a monster. Shwena questioned herself, why would this male lead, who absolutely hates this person, suddenly appear before me? Raffle opened his mouth slightly as if to say something. He posed a question to her. At the investiture ceremony, "How could you be there?" Shwena answered calmly without hesitation. "I was there because I am a high-ranking Saintess." The words Raffle uttered made Shwena grimace. "That is impossible. That was never your place." Standing before her was his face filled with killing intent. That is right. Raffle must have gone through the investiture ceremony several times. Someone else was definitely always standing there instead of me. Damn it. What should I say to get out of this? I do not want anything to do with him anymore. As the distance between the two closed even further, "I am not sure what you are talking about anymore." Raffle emphasized as he called her name, Saintess Shwena. Right then, Michael's voice came like a lifeline. "Saintess Shwena, is something wrong?" She frowned and thought for a moment. "I have delayed for too long. I should have escaped to the village gates by now." With that, Shwena looked at Raffle with a serious face for a moment. Only then did she rebut his words with a cold voice. "I have absolutely no idea why you are doing this to me, Earl." In a few seconds, Shwena flipped her attitude completely. "I was just intending to drive away evil spirits by offering a purification prayer in these clothes." Hearing this, Raffle curled his lips slightly. "Is that really true? Aren't you trying to run away?" Immediately, Shwena did not hesitate to turn on her heel. "You must be mistaken. I hope we never have to meet again." But his next words chilled her. "You said your name was Shwena, right?" Raffle asked as if he already knew. "Do you want to leave the temple?" Shwana's answer was very simple. "Of course not." I am perfectly happy under the providence of our great God. After that affirmation, he did not say another word. As for her, she ran as fast as her legs could carry her. Damn it, I missed my chance to escape. Just as she ran from Raffle, Schwanna bumped into Michael. Saintess Schwanna, I am coming in. She cleverly shouted back, I am still praying, wait. In her heart, she cursed, good grief, she has quite a temper. Without a second thought, she immediately knelt down. Just in time, he also opened the door and burst in. Saintess. Suddenly Michael froze for a beat, his voice softening significantly. Are you all right? Schwanna had managed to put on the appearance of an angel offering a silent wish. She even added the trick of pretending to have watery eyes in front of him. Yes, I am fine, Commander. I definitely have to slip away. This made Michael feel as if he were rooted to the spot. His eyes widened as he stammered, unable to finish his sentence. Saintess, those clothes are. Unexpectedly, she only smiled and did not answer. Once finished, Schwanna slowly stood up with great composure. A powerful evil spirit resides in these clothes, and it simply won't be purified by ordinary prayers. I thought perhaps wearing it myself while praying might help, but it seems my strength was not enough after all. Michael looked at her seriously. It is impressive that you were not possessed. He even added a careful reminder, you should go out now. You have been praying much longer than the allotted time. Hearing this, a thought flashed in Schwanna's mind. He does not realize, does he? I need to push a bit further. A few seconds later, she spoke with a somber face, Holy Knight Commander. In the dark house, Schwanna dropped a bombshell on Michael. This house is too dangerous. It must be purified, even as soon as tomorrow. However, he did not seem to approve. But, you have overexerted yourself today, so you must rest for now. This made her even more agitated. No. Schwanna's voice trembled even more. I cannot do that. I cannot abandon God's will for personal reasons. Facing such fragile innocence, Michael did not know what to do. He gently reassured her, then please come with me at the earliest opportunity. She agreed accordingly. I would be very grateful for that. The two stood in silence, looking at each other. Schwanna said, I need to change before we go back. Michael agreed, I will wait outside first. Be sure to come out once you are done. Thank you for the consideration. Inside, Schwanna cursed irritably. I have to do it now. Suddenly, she realized something. A piece of paper lay scattered on the floor. Schwanna reached down and picked it up. She opened the paper. Schwanna was surprised by the contents. That madman. When did he put this paper in here? Outside the lavish palace. Schwanna angrily crumpled the paper in her hand. If you return again. He seems certain that I am regressing. I do not want anything to do with him. If the novel's length increases, my escape will be delayed. She bluntly tossed the ball of paper into the fireplace flames. Schwanna clutched the hem of her skirt. I do not have time for this. I have to escape this damn novel as soon as possible. The silhouette of Dahai's mother was submerged in a sea of fire, calling out loudly, my love, where is Eun-hai? Have you taken Eun-hai out of the small room yet? The father quickly replied, I have the girl here, you get out too, hurry. Schwanna startled out of the memory fragment. Her hands clenched into fists as she made a silent determination. I must go back. There are a few things I need to ask my parents. The next purification site is Floriana, is not it? Schwanna lifted a floor tile. Beneath it were countless ancient documents, the paper already yellowed with age. She picked one up to read. Look closely, Schwanna. Schwanna recalled Paul's instructions. The building you see here is the temple, and if you go in this direction for a week, you will reach the port town of Floriana. She wondered, what is the black part here? Paul asked back wearily. You do not even know nautical symbols. Schwanna was even more confused. But the sea is blue, right? Paul suddenly reached out and patted her head. He smiled kindly. Do you find looking at maps interesting? I will bring you more, bit by bit, in the future. Schwanna replied joyfully, really, I am so happy. Thank you, uncle. She could not help but feel excited in her heart. Great, I have a map. Returning to reality, Schwanna was still seriously observing the ancient map. Before long, it was morning, and the deserted corridor appeared. Schwanna carried a large wooden suitcase, strutting across the temple grounds. Suddenly, a call came from behind, Lady Shwana. She immediately recognized the other party. Sir Malik. Malik came running, happily humming a tune. You are out so early. He expressed excitedly, just thinking about going to perform the purification vow with such a devout saintess fills my heart with faith. Shwana replied politely, Me too, Sir Malik. I will be counting on your help today as well. Her heart was briefly relieved. Glad it is Malik. If he gets scared and runs away like last time, I will escape then. Shwana suggested, Let us overcome these hardships together through faith. Malik proactively offered to help her. Yes, Saintess. Please give me your luggage. I will carry it for you. Suddenly, a tense voice rang out. Malik, stop. The person approached the two of them. The holy knight who will perform the purification vow with Saintess Shwana today. It was the abbess, and behind her was Michael Severino. Malik asked in shock, Was it not supposed to be me? Michael pushed him aside. That is right, there has been a change. Malik called out to Shwana in grievance, Saintess Shwana. Shwana clasped her hands and greeted the abbess. Yes, High Saintess. The abbess lightly placed a hand on her shoulder. Floriana is a very cruel place. I felt it would be more appropriate for the knight commander himself to take action. That is fine, is not it? Shwana was briefly stunned by the abbess's unexpected attitude. She bowed respectfully. No matter where I go or with whom, I am simply performing the work of conveying Moandala's teachings. The abbess smiled subtly. In that case, do your best with the upcoming schedule, Saintess Shwana. She instructed Michael, Knight Commander, escort Saintess Shwana to the carriage immediately. He obeyed. Yes, High Saintess. Shwana rolled her eyes irritably, cursing inwardly, that damn cult leader hag. It is going to be hard to escape while I am with him. The green carriage was parked right by the roadside. The carriage began to move, the sound of horse hooves clopping. Shwana sat neatly inside the passenger compartment. She glanced at Michael sitting directly opposite her. No. Why is he sitting in the carriage with me instead of riding a horse? This is so annoying. As if reading her thoughts, Michael asked, Does traveling with me happen to make you uncomfortable? Shwana lied. Not at all. Traveling with you is much better than traveling alone. Michael suddenly added a question. I see. Then you also know that holy knights must protect saintesses, right? Shwana hesitated briefly. Yes, but why do you ask? Michael loosely interlaced his hands and spoke slowly. That means they also act as a jailer to ensure the saintess does not flee. Shwana's face showed clear fear. But Sir Michael Severino. She clarified, flee is usually used when escaping from something negative. Michael caught her point and stated coldly, Is that not the case? Shwana tilted her head, pretending to be innocent. But the temple is a holy place, right? I do not think that choice of words is appropriate. Michael watched her thoughtfully for a moment. He leaned back against the seat. You are right. The temple is the saintess's home, and a sacred place for serving God. The reason I brought it up just now is because Michael, sitting opposite, explained that there had been cases where, after a long journey, a saintess and a holy knight disappeared together. Shwana was horrified. Turns out these cult freaks are on guard not because they think I will escape alone. It turns out they are worried Malik might seduce me, and we would run off together. Do I look like the type to fall madly in love with an idiot like that? After thinking for a moment, she looked at Michael with concern. A holy knight and a saintess are children chosen by God. For their hearts to align and form a romantic relationship is something unimaginable. He pretended to rest his chin in thought for a moment. Then he voiced his agreement. I share the same view. Betraying God's will is preposterous. They are no different from living war demons. That is why they must be pursued to the end and purified by the holy sword. Shwana gave a forced smile. I see. Is that so? But inwardly, she was extremely worried. If I run away, will I even be able to survive? Afterward, her gaze kept drifting toward Michael. She asked curiously, thinking back, considering you became the holy knight commander at such a young age, did you always want to be a holy knight? Seeing her desire to know, he recounted, When I was young, my parents abandoned me at the temple gates. Thanks to that, I was raised under the care of Moandala. After hearing his story, she shared hers. I see. As for me, my parents told me to become a saintess, so I came to the temple. Hearing this, Michael fell into deep thought for a long time. Then he spoke up. Have you ever thought about not being a saintess? Shwena replied with a smile. I am happy with who I am now, a saintess. But then, as if suddenly realizing something, she asked in surprise, is it possible you are not satisfied with your current life, Sir Michael Severino? But with a cold face, he replied unhappily, not at all. I believe this is my divine destiny. Shwena expressed admiration. I think so too. What an impressive holy knight. She looked at him silently, observing him, and thought, he looks at most 5 or 6 years older than me. How can his faith be so steadfast? Is he brainwashed or something? A few days later, at a beautiful seaside city, many holy knights were present, surrounded by whispers of, praise Lord Moandala. Saintess Shwena appeared there as well. She took a deep breath and marveled, the smell of the sea. But it is strange. Uncle Paul said this place was supposed to be a chaotic port city, but there is no one around, and it is unnervingly quiet. Beside her, a voice asked, Saintess Shwena, do you also sense the evil spirits? Hearing this, she was extremely panicked, but tried to calm herself. Stay calm, stay in character. Yes, this place is filled with truly wicked things. Should I offer a purification prayer right here? At that moment, Michael appeared from behind and called out loudly, Saintess. Do you not hear the piercing screams of the evil spirits, as if they want to tear your eardrums apart? She fearfully clasped her hands. I am not sure. I only hear Moandala's call urging me forward. The people around whispered, then reminded Shwena, Saintess, this is the center of the village. To summon all the evil spirits residing in this entire village, even with your power, it will be very difficult. She stepped forward and explained, even so, Commander. I believe I must do what I can, for it is my duty. What she just said caused Michael to stare at her for a long time. Then he disagreed, and turned away abruptly. Purification is important, but there is no need to put yourself in danger. Please follow me this way. Finally, she compromised and replied to his concern. Yes, I understand. The people behind her watched and gossiped, just like the rumors say, Saintess Shwena is amazing. Shwena rejoiced inwardly, feeling as if flowers were blooming. Great, that was a pretty dedicated Saintess performance. She followed Michael to a small wooden house. Inside, it was not just her and Michael. 2 other holy knights accompanied them. Suddenly, a piercing sound rang out, terrifying everyone. Shwena looked on worriedly. What is wrong with them? Are they just tired from the long journey? Michael, standing nearby, called out, Saintess, you may begin as soon as the preparations are complete. Shwena nodded in agreement. Yes, I understand. Then she knelt on the ground, and at that moment, suspicion arose in her mind. Thinking back, even in the carriage, he kept testing me. I think he suspects that I still can't see those things called evil spirits. Fine, I will show him a grand purification or something like that. I will just mumble some random scriptures or something. Michael held his sword and gave instructions. Everyone, keep your spirits high. The 2 cowardly knights were already terrified. Commander, just a bit more and it will. Michael raised his hand to create magic, forming an ice sphere surrounding their location. The sound of the magic sphere shattering rang out. This made Michael's face turn grim. He was furious. At that moment, a grotesque face appeared behind him. As if suddenly realizing something, his eyes widened in horror. Michael spun around quickly, just in time to come face to face with the terrifyingly grotesque being. Without thinking, he rushed upward. Then he attacked it. The holy knights standing nearby saw this and shouted in worry, Commander. But then he turned to urge them both. We are retreating. Protecting the Saintess is the top priority. Move quickly. But at that moment, a strange light enveloped the entire house, surprising all 3 of them. Especially the expression on Michael's face. He looked towards Shwena, who was clasping her hands. A strange light radiated from her body, and a voice echoed in the quiet space, and Moandala has answered, My warrior, I am always by your side. Her hair turned silver white and fluttered about. Then she stood up and walked toward Michael, standing right beside him. Then she spoke, I. Michael stood there, stunned and speechless. Xuana is. Xuana smiled brightly now, surrounded by an inexplicable aura. She just stood there and said, "The purification prayer is over, Holy Knight Commander." Michael approached a true Saintess. By now, the group had safely escaped that wooden house. Along with the carriage, they escaped the forest together. Xuana sat inside the carriage. Her face showed signs of discomfort. Noticing this, Michael leaned down to ask her, "Saintess Xuana, you do not look well. Let us rest for a moment. It seems your condition is worsening." Xuana looked at Michael and replied to his inquiry, "Yes, sounds good. Stop the carriage. We will rest for a bit." "Yes, Commander." But in reality, what made her uncomfortable was not what he thought. "It is not because of my condition. It is because your gaze is too heavy." The carriage wheels came to a complete stop. Xuana pulled the curtain aside, preparing to step down. But suddenly, her gaze halted. She bumped into Michael's handsome face as he stood watching her intently. He kindly reminded her, "The ground is wet. Be careful not to fall when you step down." Xuana took his hand and spoke softly, "Thank you, Knight Commander." But then she could not trust him anymore. Her thoughts kept surfacing. What a ridiculous guy. I guess he confirmed something during that purification prayer. Has my acting skill improved? I just recited some scriptures and followed the movements. She stepped down and stood alone in the distance. While stretching her body, a line of thought reminded her, "Saintess Xuana. If my prediction is correct, then in the near future, I need to escape quickly. Is there no other way?" Conversely, Michael was thinking differently. She might inherit the position of High Saintess. That aura full of devotion. But then he suddenly realized in horror, perhaps, that power is even greater than the High Saintesses. He was surprised and could not believe what he had just thought. Michael was fearful. Have I been lacking in training lately, to have thoughts that only a demon would have? The only faithful spokesperson for Moandala is the High Saintess. But interrupting his train of thought, a sound came from behind, "Save me." It was a suspicious woman being restrained by 2 holy knights. She kept screaming, "Please save me," which surprised Michael. "What is this?" Then he spoke to remind her, "Calm down. What is going on?" She looked behind him and asked, "The person behind you, she is a high-ranking Saintess, right? We need the Saintess's prayer." Michael raised his hand to stop her. "Calm down. To receive the Saintess's prayer, you must explain your situation to the temple and wait your turn." But she stubbornly pleaded, "But, my child." The child went out to play and has not returned home yet. Hearing this, the 2 knights' faces were filled with terror. In their fear, both let go of her and backed away. Michael let out a sigh. Then he turned to ask Xuana's opinion. "What do you think, Saintess?" She replied to Michael in surprise. "About what?" Then Michael pointed toward the woman and said, "We can't delay for long, but would it be all right to give some time to this person?" Hearing that made her worry. "Knight Commander Michael, what on earth have you been doing with the knights until now?" At this, Michael quickly spun around. The others looked at each other in bewilderment at the same time. She disappeared. Taking advantage of this moment, he blurted out, "Saintess Xuana, run quickly." However, the demon reached Michael first. "Save me, save me." The next second, it dragged him straight up into the air. Then Michael was thrown violently to the ground. Not stopping there, it continued to tighten its grip on his neck. And then, before everyone's eyes, Michael was dragged across the ground by it. He himself resisted weakly but failed. "Stop." At the most critical moment, Xuana suddenly spoke, "Let go, Michael." Despite being terrified, she tried to direct him. "Why are you strangling yourself? Wake up." On his end, Michael felt confused. Am I strangling myself? Is this evil spirit showing the Saintess an illusion? But before he could think further, the demon pulled him up again. Once again, Michael cursed inwardly, "Damn it, I can't put any strength into my body." While resisting, he tried to think of a way. If I can just knock this hand away. And very quickly, Michael saw the dagger. Without further hesitation, he signaled, "Sword, Saintess, the sword." Xuana heard it and ran over immediately. Yes. And without much effort, she found the dagger. Immediately after, Xuana quickly held it out. "Here." At that exact moment, she suddenly jumped in fear. Before Schwana's eyes, Michael was on the brink of death. Michael! She herself fell into confusion. What the hell is going on? Why is he doing this? Is he being controlled by an evil spirit or something? Suddenly, Schwana had a fleeting thought. Wait, is not now the chance to escape? Then she began to convince herself, he is the bastard who burned me at the stake so many times until now. There is no reason at all for me to help him. With that thought, Schwana became even more fearful. There is not a single reason. While she was still stunned, a hand suddenly reached out from behind. It immediately tapped her shoulder, forcing her to look over in surprise. Along with it was a call that made Schwana panic, Saintess. Raffle followed up coldly, if you have taken the sword, you must unsheath it. Then he slowly drew his own sword. With just one swing of the sword, the demon was sliced in half. Just as he was freed, Michael vomited a mouthful of blood. Exhausted, his body slumped to his knees. Finally, Michael fell unconscious on the spot. Schwana's panicked voice rang out immediately, Raffle. The moment their eyes met, the atmosphere became extremely tense. However, Michael's pained groans drew their attention. Then Raffle heartlessly kicked him. Thanks to that brutality, Michael grimaced in even more pain. After a while, Schwana finally dared to ask, did you kill them? Raffle replied nonchalantly, they are just unconscious. Hearing that, she just let out a weary sigh. Sigh, what on earth is going on? On the other hand, Raffle suddenly questioned her. I heard you were wandering around doing purification ceremonies or something, but is this the first time you have seen something like this? She honestly admitted, everything happened too fast. He immediately showed disappointment. Seriously, are you really a saintess? You can't do anything right, and yet you came out here to do purification and whatnot. Right then, the sword in his hand suddenly glowed bright red. Sensing a bad omen, Raffle quickly sheathed the sword. Then he carefully instructed, anyway, keep my presence a secret from that rigid commander. Got it. As soon as he finished speaking, Raffle felt something strange. When did the mist become so thick? A bad premonition made him hurriedly call her, Schwana. In contrast, Schwana was now stunned. Are you even listening to me? And then she suddenly screamed, pulling him along in surprise. Saintess. Schwana turned pale, making Raffle very surprised. What the hell are you doing? Are you really that afraid of mist? He tried to reassure her. There is nothing left here. Has something possessed you? Suddenly her voice rang out tremblingly, I want. Schwana muttered unconsciously, I am right here. Mom, Dad. She reached out and grabbed Raffle's ankle. Please take me with you. The flames flared up, making Schwana extremely panicked. It is so hot. Get me out of here. Take me with you. Save me. But then her hand went limp. Schwana, as if losing hope, sank down slightly. I understand. So please let go. Suddenly, Raffle grabbed her wrist. The feeling within him was strangely peaceful. The lingering agitation and rage vanished instantly. The surrounding space became unusually quiet. In Raffle's mind, there was only one thought, so quiet. I have repeated my life hundreds of times. It seems her hand has brought a miracle, but I have never seen the world this quiet before. Suddenly his pupils dilated. Raffle casually pushed Schwana down to the ground. Schwana fell to the ground in extreme bewilderment. At this point, he spoke coldly, feel better now. She gritted her teeth angrily. Yes, I am completely awake now. All thanks to you. So the two went silent, neither saying a word. From a distance, a sound reached Raffle's ears. I have heard enough rumors about Baron Hartwin's reputation, but were you brutally abused as a child? Schwana spoke with deep meaning. My parents were not that kind of people. Her eyes showed nothing but sorrow. Abuse, that is preposterous. Raffle felt a slight tension under that gaze. 140, a line of thought ran through his mind, as if there is anyone in this empire who has not heard the rumor that Baron and Baroness Hartwin's daughter, who was locked in an attic her whole life without a basic education, was eventually sold by them to the temple. Thinking that, the corners of Raffle's lips curled slightly. You were the one who clung to me, saying it was too hot and begging to be taken out. If it was not your parents, then were you abused at your precious temple? Schwana looked away, pretending to have forgotten. I do not remember any of that. Are you sure you did not mishear? Perhaps you are the one who is haunted. The one haunted is not me, but your companions who were just attacked by evil spirits. Then she saw Michael unconscious. The knights. They're okay, right? Nothing happened to them. He immediately looked annoyed. Who knows? Why do not you go see for yourself if they are dead or not? Shuana quickly ran in one direction. Raffle glanced into the distance. Commander Severino, are you okay? Please wake up. She began to recite some scriptures. Moandala, goodness, I did not expect you all to be so helpless against evil spirits. As she spoke, Shuana's shoulders trembled slightly. I pray, if my prayer can reach the gods, please protect your faithful son from evil. For those who walk toward the light shall find themselves before divine guidance. He just gave a cold laugh. Once again, I was wrong. I should not expect anything. Thinking to himself, she is no different from the other pathetic saintesses who spend their whole lives clinging to a few useless pieces of scripture. Meeting Raffle's gaze, she stammered, Earl, what should I do? He frowned in confusion. What do you mean, they are just unconscious, so wait until they wake up. Shuana started to say something, but he irritably stopped her. Enough. Raffle leaned down and whispered in her ear, when the knights wake up, tell them you resolved everything with your prayers. Shuana cringed in fear. But I did not do anything. Just now, Earl Winters, you rushed in, whoosh whoosh, with your sword and... Suddenly, he commanded somberly, just do as you are told. Raffle casually lifted Shuana's chin. If the temple contacts me about this, I will personally kill you. The threat momentarily left her speechless. In an instant, Shuana scrambled backward. Raffle remained silent, saying no more. Only seeing that she was crying aggrievedly in a corner. For a split second, Shuana stole a glance at him. The scene now only held her and Michael. He is finally gone. So Shuana raised an affectionate finger and cursed inwardly. I almost got caught up with that walking disaster. I thought he might cut ties if I acted stupid, and it worked exactly as expected. But then she had to rub her chin and think again. By the way, what the hell was he doing here? His territory is not even in this direction. Immediately Shuana shook her head to dismiss it. No, do not be curious. Stay away from the male lead. In the original work, I can't interfere in his life and prolong the plot unnecessarily. Raffle has to survive and reach the end quickly so I can escape this damn novel. For this reason, Shuana urged herself, so, run quickly. Suddenly her footsteps halted. Shuana was tripped up by Michael's body. She was quite surprised and could not react in time. Wait. So without much thought, Shuana just kicked him away. Get out of the way. Shuana knelt before Michael and thought, I have been thinking about this for quite a while now. She was calculating the consequences, if he were to pass away. But it seems I am exempt from legal responsibility for accidentally finishing this guy off. Do you know how many times I was burned because of him? A bad angel appeared. That is right. How can you be sure he won't toast you again in this life? She agreed along with it. My point exactly. Another angel appeared to object. But nothing has happened to Michael in this life yet, right? She hummed for a bit and realized. That is true. Wait, you are an angel too, right? The good angel reminded her in panic, if Michael wakes up while you are escaping like this, not only will you be a runaway nun, but you will be wanted for attempted murder. Shuana was scared by that. There, exactly. However, the bad angel still tried to coax her. But if I do not run away now, who knows when I will get another chance? At that moment, a thought occurred to Shuana. Was the demon defeated by Raffle or something? Come to think of it, there are two angels, and am I the only one who thinks that angel looks a bit dangerous? Then a loud call came, groan. Hearing it, she jumped and looked back. Is he waking up? That should not be happening right now. So the two angels vanished together. I am leaving. Figure out the answer yourself. Groan crawled up, his mouth constantly muttering, my head. Shuana still had not figured out a countermeasure to solve the problem. Alan also struggled to sit up. Commander, Saintess. Thank God you two are safe. At this moment, Groan's eyes widened upon hearing the prayer. I have prayed to God to help you overcome the peril. She cast a spell while glancing at the two. Please be merciful and save us. I pray to Moandala with all my heart. The two knights quickly knelt in respect. Saintess Xuana. Michael's eyelids flickered heavily. Moandala. Groan cried like a child whose mother was away. If not for the Saintess's prayer, we might have ascended to heaven. She waved her hand and exhaled in relief. Don't worry, it is nothing. I only did what I should have done. But inwardly, she could not help being mean. You troublesome people, please stay out of my life. He announced, since the commander has woken up, we will prepare to depart. Alan followed up, Saintess, please rest. Xuana smiled politely. Thank you. Michael sat leaning against a rock behind her, silent and pensive. Once the other two left, he finally spoke, by the way, Saintess, what on earth happened? Michael rubbed his head, making her feel guilty. I have a severe pain in the back of my head. Xuana immediately made up a story. Earlier, the commander kept hitting the back of his own head. It seems he does not remember anything because of the shock. He was still a bit suspicious. Not just my neck, but the back of my head too. She placed her hand on Michael's hand to gently reassure him. Commander Michael Severino. Xuana advised him like a textbook, don't try to remember those painful moments. With that, she decided to manipulate his thoughts. Compared to the joy of returning to God's embrace, the echo of pain is trivial. In her heart, Xuana hurriedly cursed. I hope he does not remember my kick. Forget everything, you idiot. These words captivated Michael's soul. Saintess Xuana. He struggled to stand up after the shock. The next second, Michael bowed very politely. Thank you for sacrificing yourself to save me from the hands of the demon. Seeing this, Xuana also spoke gently. It was nothing. Helping everyone is my hobby. Though she was smiling, it was all within her calculations. You were right. The temple is the home of the Saintesses and a sacred space for serving God. The image of Michael with killing eyes haunted Xuana's mind. The reason I mentioned that just now is because there have been cases where a Saintess and a knight disappeared together on a long-term mission. Momentarily, the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. That is right. That is one way to do it. Xuana quickly ripped her own sleeve. She handed it to him and instructed, Here, Commander, take this. Without giving Michael time to react, Xuana stood on her tiptoes and draped the cloth over him. If you wrap this around your neck, the swelling will go down. His cheeks flushed a faint shade of pink. A few seconds later, Michael took a few steps back. Saintess, I can do it myself. She reminded him softly, but you are injured. Xuana continued to flirt with him. You were hurt this badly while protecting me. With his heart racing, Michael quickly looked away. I often encounter these kinds of wounds during training. This is nothing. Unexpectedly, she switched tactics. Oh, my dear commander. Michael froze when Xuana's hand touched his forehead. She put on a worried expression. I think you might have a fever. Your face is completely red. These words seemed to wake his dormant consciousness. Michael hurriedly wrapped the cloth and said, I am fine, Saintess. Thank you for taking care of me. I will handle the rest. This time, Xuana did not push further. Right, if I stimulate him too much at once. A dark look filled her eyes. This celibate devotee might label me a witch and burn me to death. To stay safe, I must ensure he is the one who confesses first. Just then, a small cry rang out. Michael spoke up to check. Saintess, are you all right? Xuana clutched her foot and replied, I think I sprained my ankle. He knelt down to check. Let me see. Michael's hand gently brushed over a few spots. Does it hurt where I press? How about here? She groaned softly. That hurts. He concluded immediately. Oh dear, it seems you have suffered a severe sprain. Suddenly, Xuana tucked her foot back under her skirt. Michael was briefly confused. Saintess, I can't check the wound if you do that. She looked down with a certain meaningful air. But, Sir Commander. Xuana's cheeks were bright red, appearing slightly embarrassed. It is because I am not wearing socks today. He froze for a long moment. Then, he almost fainted from embarrassment. Michael raised his hand like a wound-up robot. I sincerely apologize. Accidentally, the hem of Xuana's skirt was tossed up. He stood frozen as his morals forbade him from looking. He even poked his own eyes as a self-punishment. Not knowing what else to do, Michael decided to act tough. I did not see anything at all. Schwanna clenched her fists in annoyance. Don't fight your instincts, tell me to run away with you. Her hand trembled slightly as she thought, together, right. Left alone, Schwanna began to blame herself. To think I have to work this hard to seduce the man who has burned me alive several times. My situation is pathetically pitiful. Schwanna turned her head toward the forest. Even I, who has only been rejected about 10 times, feel this exhausted and disappointed. So he must have been incredibly frustrated. According to the original work, she felt a bit of empathy for Raffle. Spending a whole lifetime living while being unable to do anything, without even the hope to move forward. I think I am starting to understand Raffle's choice, the man who devastated the entire empire only to bring about his own destruction. I never imagined the day would come when I would truly sympathize with him. With that, Schwanna sighed softly. Truly, how tragic. At that moment, a voice rang out, "Who are you calling tragic?" She froze and turned her gaze forward. It appeared Raffle was bathing in the stream. He showed off his six-pack abs and curled his lip. Saintess Schwanna. At this sight, Schwanna's eyes widened in shock. My eyes, quick, get those eyes now, get that chest out of my face. Raffle frowned in confusion. My eyes, what about them? In her haste, she tripped over her own feet. Schwanna fell flat on the ground. She screamed in pain. Wait a minute. Raffle slowly walked toward where Schwanna was. She muttered a curse to herself. Pretending to be injured must have backfired. He put his shirt back on while questioning her. Why are you still wandering around the forest at this hour? Schwanna looked away avoidantly. I was just going for a short walk. Don't worry about it. He seemed fine. Suddenly, Raffle reached his hand out in front of her. Though cold, he was still quite caring. Stop grumbling and get up. Schwanna just stared and did not respond, because she still felt somewhat dissatisfied. Raffle let out a helpless sigh. He domineeringly pulled Schwanna up by her hand. Despite this, her attitude remained clearly disgusted. Schwanna yanked her hand away from Raffle's and snapped. I can stand up by myself, he replied patiently. Are you taking your anger out on me? Is something bothering you? Unexpectedly, she doused him with cold water. I have nothing to say to a stark naked pervert bathing in a pond, his face twisted in annoyance. Pervert. A second later, Raffle let out a teasing huff. You think you are the only one doing everything to seduce a holy knight, having her secret exposed. Schwanna became quite agitated. No, I would never do such a thing. He glared with a hint of danger. Don't you see them, right now, right beside you? The evil spirits in the forest are telling me. She was drawn in by these words. Demons, can you see them? Schwanna just remembered. According to the knights, catching a glimpse of an evil spirit is one thing, but I have never met anyone who can see ghosts all the time. Raffle continued to smirk. I do not know what perverted thing you did with that man, but the ghosts are screaming desperately about how you seduced him. Would a saintess like a knight? You act like a devout cleric, so I thought you would at least follow the rules. Schwanna asked in a low voice, tell me. He looked slightly confused. What? She demanded bluntly. Tell me what they said. What did the spirit say? Her excitement took Raffle by surprise. Are you really that interested in him? Regardless of what he said, Schwanna threatened him first. If you do not tell me, I will spread rumors that you are a pervert who likes to flash people outdoors. The sudden rage left Raffle speechless. He held his head and laughed bitterly. I misjudged you. I did not expect you to be such a crazy woman. Schwanna urged him hastily. Tell me, what are the spirits behind me saying? After waiting and receiving no answer, she switched to a pathetic tone. You are still not saying, I see. Seeing spirits is a secret, right? I won't tell anyone, and I won't mention that you are an outdoor flasher either. Raffle remained silent despite Schwanna's plea. So please, I am begging you. She seemed to be acting like a top-tier leech. Please. Finally, he gave in. It is nothing special. Just smile when your eyes meet his and behave well. Raffle looked blank for a few seconds. How should I smile? Then she posed with a radiant smile. Like this. His heart involuntarily skipped a beat. Raffle pursed his lips tightly, suppressing his feelings. With that, he quickly turned away. I do not care. Practice expressing your emotions by yourself. I am leaving. She called after him poutily, you are so selfish. In return, Xuana was completely ignored by Raffle. Seriously, I am fine too. Let us not run into each other again. Once he vanished, she dared to breathe heavily. Bumping into him so suddenly startled me. All right, if I go back now and, just as the spirits advised, give a charming smile to Michael. One problem gone, another arrives. What are you doing here? Michael still seemed quite tense. I have not seen you for a while, so I have been searching for a long time. Xuana pretended to be weak. I am so sorry. I intended to walk for a bit to get some fresh air, but then I encountered a snake, so I stayed to watch for a while. He reminded her in a low voice, Saintess Xuana. Did you forget that you are not allowed to wander alone outside the temple? At this point, Xuana could no longer endure it. Why? She smirked sharply. Do you think I am going to run away? Xuana's mind understood one thing. I must be going crazy. Seducing him to find a way to escape. Truly insane. Planning such a thing with a monster like him, who looks for a chance to toast me. Xuana questioned him directly. Commander, are you looking at a Saintess like a prisoner? Why are you so hard on me? Is walking to breathe there a crime too? He explained patiently, I do not mean to see you as a criminal. I just want to protect you. It is truly too dangerous outside the cathedral. Xuana took step after step toward Michael. Really, I am in even more danger because you are always ready to deal with me at any moment. Is it God's will to label those who leave the temple for freedom as witches and kill them? Which line in the scriptures mentions that? Michael stated seriously, the directives state that evil must be destroyed. I am only doing what I must do. Xuana continued to press him. Who told you to do that, Moandala, or the abbess? Suddenly, Michael's brow furrowed tightly. He did not hesitate to draw his sword. Saintess Xuana. It seems you went out alone, and were enchanted by something. Unlike before, it now seems you have abandoned the gods. Michael declared without hesitation, I knew it would happen. Xuana realized with wide eyes, well, I am screwed. She was so helpless she could barely stand. I can't believe I was stupid enough to reveal my anxiety in front of Michael. I was so angry that I said such harsh words. Seeing half of Michael's sword blade, Xuana finally knew what fear was. Why the hell is he drawing his sword? Wait, are we skipping the burning ritual this time and going straight to instant execution? Now that things have come to this, let us see if I have any options left. Michael struck his chest proudly. You do not understand why I thirst for freedom so much, do you? You truly have no idea what kind of freedom I dream of. But he seemed quite cold. Deception won't work, Saintess Xuana. Despite that, she still used her tragic appearance. The only person trying to test me is you, Commander Michael. After these words, the two went silent, eyes meeting eyes. Michael thought for a moment, but did not act. Xuana held her breath, waiting for the next words. Would this confession work? He scratched his head and began, Saintess Xuana. She asked back hastily, is something wrong? Michael explained awkwardly, I will act as if I never heard what you said. I must head back now. Seeing him leave, she was incredibly confused. Wait, Commander. But Michael kept walking straight, without looking back. Xuana looked up and let out a long breath. I lived. In her heart, she tried to reassess the situation. I have temporarily distracted Michael, but if I just return to the temple like this. The image of Michael drawing his sword at her neck was always present. Moandala, please forgive your sinful son who has been possessed by evil. Xuana reminded herself, when Michael returns, he will try to deal with me. From now until that happens. Xuana dashed headlong into the forest. She was now filled with determination. My role as a virtuous saintess in this life ends here. The night of the full moon seemed endless. Xuana stood before a marked tree. Is this what it feels like to be possessed by a ghost? How many hours have I been walking around the same spot? She was utterly helpless. This is bad. I am thirsty, and my feet hurt. Suddenly, the sound of flowing water reached her. This sound. Xuana looked delighted. The sound of a stream. She quickly ran in that direction. It seems the water source is down there. I do not want to end up like a grilled fish again. If I run toward the water source, I will be able to get down the mountain. I want to go home. As she ran aimlessly toward the sound of the stream, she remembered the day she went to the valley with her parents as a child. That probably happened not long after she was adopted. Dahai came across a boy who had fallen. So she reached out to help, even helping a friend. Dahai's mother gave her much praise. Our precious Dahai, you really are a good child. A warm feeling enveloped her. This is what anyone should do. Hearing the words good child made her happier than anything. Because that was the reason she met her parents. The manager had introduced her to the adoptive parents. Dahai is the most mature and well-behaved child in our center. The man had asked, so you are Dahai, it is nice to meet you. The woman also spoke warmly, Dahai, what would you think about living with us? Unexpectedly, Dahai introduced herself hesitantly, but I am already 6 years old. The adoptive parents were briefly surprised. Other adults had said, you are past the best age. A warm voice rang out, if we had our own child, they would surely be your age, Dahai. The man pulled her into a comforting embrace. Being 6 makes it even more wonderful. So, can I really become your daughter? He took Dahai's small hands. Will you? The woman also held her hand. Our good daughter, Dahai. The family of 3 looked quite happy. Thank you so much for becoming our daughter. From now on, can you call us Mom and Dad? She thought the small family would remain that way, Mom, Dad, and Dahai. But then Dahai's adoptive parents had their first biological child. The 3 of us will forever be a family. Her eyes were marked with 2 red lines. The 3 of us. A question that always haunted Dahai in her previous life as well as Shwena in this one. Then what about me? She suddenly stopped right in front of a marked tree trunk. Shwena could not help but collapse to the ground. She recalled the memory just now. That scene was so vivid. Was it an hallucination? Then Shwena looked at the white cloth wrapped around the trunk. No, why am I in front of that tree trunk again? I tried to follow the sound of the stream. Suddenly, a jumble of whispering sounds came from somewhere. Evil spirits beneath her feet kept uttering, child, 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 tehe, child. Terrified, Shwena did not think twice and hurried away. Child, tehe. Are you leaving? She thought to herself, I have gone to many places in the role of a saintess, but I have never seen a ghost, let alone heard ghosts calling. At this moment, Shwena was not paying attention to the road and tripped. She fell to the ground over and over again. When she managed to sit up, Shwena felt extremely self-pitying. She clutched her head and tried her best to drive them away. You demons, get lost, I said get lost. Suddenly, a familiar voice rang out, if you do not want to die, disappear in silence. Wait, but you are already dead, are not you? Shwena was stunned and muttered to herself, this rude way of speaking. Could it be? She followed the sound and reached an open clearing. So what do you want me to do about it? Is it my fault? Raffle was there, sternly chasing away spirits. Get lost, your fat, swollen face makes me nauseous. As soon as she saw him, Shwena could not help but start sobbing. Her action alerted Raffle. Shwena's hands reached out as if to grab hold. She was like a child seeking a peaceful harbor. Raffle Winters, Raffle jumped in surprise. What? You still have not left. Shwena said nothing and directly grabbed his hand. Raffle's pupils dilated in an instant. His quiet world seemed to have small flower petals sprouting. Shwena pleaded desperately, please help me. She kept shaking Raffle's hand. You were talking to the spirits just now, right? There are some weirdos clinging to me and making gurgling noises with their mouths. Raffle went silent for a very long time. Shwena looked at him expectantly with tears streaming down her face. She realized she was overreacting and let go of his hand. Raffle Winters. In half a second, Raffle tightened his grip again. Wait a moment. He covered half his face and commanded somberly, stay here. Let me think for a while. The feeling of peace along with a gentle breeze was something Raffle had never experienced. Raffle blurted out his feelings. The wind is blowing, carrying the scent of grass. However, Shwana still did not understand. Yes, well, we are in the forest after all. Suddenly his gentle smile bloomed. How peaceful. She looked dazed. In her heart, Shwana considered Raffle an eccentric. What is he muttering? Is he really communicating with spirits? Suddenly his gaze changed again, much sharper. He finally uttered the long-held question, "You. Who are you?" She instinctively replied with wide eyes, "A Saintess." Raffle irritably scolded her. "You think I am asking such a mindless question?" Then it was Shwana's turn to be annoyed. "Then how do you want me to answer?" A thought flashed through Raffle's mind. How strange. The world is gradually becoming silent and poetic. Shwana smiled awkwardly. "I am sorry for grabbing you, but can we talk after you let go of me?" He pondered for a moment. "Is that why my gaze is so brilliant?" With that, he asked excitedly, "Who are you really?" Shwana showed clear unease. "I do not understand what you are trying to say." Right then, a voice full of jealousy rang out. "What the hell is going on here?" The person who appeared with an unhappy face was Michael. Shwana had not expected this. "I am dead. I am crazy." She was about to explain, "Sir Knight Commander," only to be cut off. "Saintess Shwana." Michael coldly recited the law. Desertion is a criminal offense, not to mention contacting outsiders, without prior permission. Shwana explained tremblingly, "This is just a coincidence. Somehow I." He put her aside and called out, "Earl Winters." Michael demanded in a low voice, "Let go of the Saintess's hand." He found it quite amusing. "And what if I keep holding it? You will arrest her and put her on the stake, right?" Shwana jumped and whispered in his ear, "Why are you provoking him for no reason?" Once again, he expressed his resolve, "If you do not release Saintess Shwana, I will execute you in the name of God." Saintess Shwana will face the same fate, obviously for the crime of meeting you in secret. She turned pale upon hearing the next words, "Though I consider it unlikely he can be called a Saintess anymore." Understanding the implication, Raffle wanted to provoke him even more. "So no matter what, you intend to execute someone. How wonderful, Michael." He also drew the sword slung across his shoulder. It seems the temple of Moandala was built atop a mountain of corpses. This struck Michael's extreme faith. "How dare you?" As he spoke, he rushed forward to attack him. Insulting the god. Raffle lazily used his sword to block the first move. He held Shwana in his arms, but still fought gracefully. "Earl, Commander, can't you put me down before you start fighting?" In return, Raffle only smirked. He held the upper hand and kicked Michael's jaw. He was thrown back by surprise. At this point, Raffle's mocking continued. "Look, Shwana, dealing with that bastard right here is just a minor trouble." She muttered back, "Why?" He explained slowly, "A bunch of fanatics will chase us to capture the one who harmed the Knight Commander, right?" Shwana nodded as if hypnotized. "There, exactly." Michael stood up, still stubborn in his conclusion. "It seems both of you are completely possessed by demons." The air was quite tense. Shwana racked her brain. "What now? Can this be saved?" Suddenly Raffle placed his hand on her shoulder and said, "But I can't let him drag you back either." "You are afraid of fire, are not you, Shwana?" These words were like a threat that scared Shwana out of her wits. "What? Me? Why is he saying these things?" As he continued to use his sword against Michael, it seemed starting over from the beginning would be better. Shwana heard this and wondered, "What did you just say?" Raffle did not say much, just pushed her away. "There will be a next time, so do not be afraid." Shwana frowned and repeated, "Next time." Michael tried to block his path. To her surprise, Raffle chose to jump off the cliff. Before falling, he tossed a promise back to her, "See you again, Saintess." Time seemed to stand still in this moment. Shwana screamed Raffle's name in panic, "Raffle." Opening her eyes once more, the feeling was exactly the same. Errol's voice rang out just like the first time, "It is your turn to clean today." She bolted up in the middle of her confusion. Again. She kept reminding her, "Hey, are you listening to me?" Shwana's hand instinctively clutched the bedsheet. "I am not dead yet, but I am back at the starting point again. I thought there would be some complicated rules or conditions." With no response, Errol was losing patience. "What is wrong with you?" Pretending to be sick to skip work, Shwana understood a rule with a grim face. Wrathful Winters. If the male lead kicks the bucket first, I also have to start over as a binding condition. With that thought, she immediately got out of bed and ran off. Sorry, Errol. I have something very urgent, she called after her. Hey, Shuana. While running down the hallway, Shuana calculated to herself. That was the time I stayed the longest. Despite the gossip around. Truly too much, behaving like that is uncalled for. In her head now there was only one wish, Raffle. That bastard. He deserves to be torn to pieces. A moment later at the knight's training ground. From outside the door, Shwana's call rang out. Sir Malik, his friend asked curiously, do you know that Saintess? No. Before he could react, Malik was pulled away a long distance by her. Sir Knight, come out for a moment. He could only stammer, Saintess. Going outside the gate, Shwana pressed Malik against the wall. Then she used all her strength to confess to anyone she could find. Sir Malik, I like you, I love you, please run away with me. He was completely bewildered. What did she just say? A series of hypotheses were formed by Shwana. If we had not gotten lost in the deep forest, Raffle would not have created a reason to self-destruct in vain. Starting over from the beginning, there is a next time, so do not be so surprised. It seemed he thought I was a saintess with enough free time to enjoy a pleasant time travel journey with him. But I needed to return to my parents as soon as possible. They must be so worried about me, they probably have a fever from worrying. That much was certain. Before the mark of the great saint was engraved on my hand, meaning, back then, when I was just a saintess, no one cared about my plan to seduce a knight and run away, was a resounding success. It had been over a month since we eloped, and we still had not been caught. Once we docked, I would leave Malik behind and hide until the novel ended. Shwana forced a smile at Malik's stories. Good grief, this guy talks too much. Suddenly, his voice softened. Please, my beloved Shwana. Shwana's eyes widened in surprise. What is it? Did you say something? He smiled comfortably. I want to know everything about the woman I will spend the rest of my life with. Can you tell me? Momentarily pushed into a difficult spot, this is not exactly a fascinating story. Inside, Shwana was screaming, I do not know a single thing about the real Shwana, so stop it right now. But Malik seemed very excited to hear her story. Seeing this, Shwana did not have the heart to refuse. I will just have to make it up. Well, I was very lonely. Sometimes I dreamed that I was a little princess locked in a grand castle. Back then, I believed a prince would come and make my life better. And occasionally, I hoped the biological parents who abandoned me would come back for me. He smiled slightly, his words a bit forced. Do you mean the Baron Hartwin family who abandoned you at the temple? Anyone would do. Shwana's gaze drifted into the distance. Yes, exactly them. Right then, the ship began to shake violently. The captain and those on board were in a total panic. What is happening? There is a sailing ship firing cannons at our vessel. Fortunately, they missed. The shells only landed in the water. Shwana huddled into Malik's arms and thought, I knew things were going too smoothly. He tried to protect her. What the hell? Are they pirates? A voice rang out that made her startle. Shwana. A thought flashed through Shwana's mind. This unpleasant voice. It could not be. Raffle stepped onto the boat, his words sounding like a command. Show yourself, Shwana. He shamelessly demanded, hand over the girl, and I will withdraw quietly. Seeing Raffle, Shwana was terrified. That guy, he should be attending his investiture ceremony right now. By now, the group on the ship recognized him. Could that be the man who achieved unbelievable miracles in the war? Earl Winters, what brings you here? Raffle stood somberly, questioning the captain. Are you the captain? The young girl with long silver purple hair, hand her over and I will leave immediately. As soon as Malik heard that, he knew who it was. Shwana, is he looking for you? She pulled him into a corner and whispered, if you do not want to die early, stay quiet. Raffle continued to demand loudly, I know you are hiding there, so show yourself. You know I always find you no matter where you hide. This attitude made Malik somewhat curious. The spirits snickered in amusement. Are you little snitches telling on me, you cowards? He broke into a cold sweat and asked tentatively, my love, who are you talking to? She angrily pointed into the empty air. I do not know either. Thinking it over, Shwena finally had to show herself. Stay here, do not show yourself. Raffle beckoned arrogantly. Come here. Couldn't you wait a few days before causing trouble? Seeing this, the captain spoke up for her. Wait a moment. Is this the girl the Earl is looking for? She came on board and said she was traveling with her husband. These words made Raffle laugh. What, husband? Don't make such a joke. His fiancée being bullied, Malik could not stay hidden. It is not a joke. We truly love each other. I will never give her to you. Shwena was horrified. Don't do that. This created unwanted gossip. I heard the nobility likes to flirt with married women, but she must have boarded the ship just to escape that man. Raffle irritably tossed his hair back. Can we end this joke now? Then he casually exposed them both. You are saying a saintess and a knight who fled the temple are married. Public opinion immediately reversed. A saintess, how dare those who betrayed God board our ship? Shwena turned to blame Malik in fear. I told you to stay put. Why did you run out here? He was too kind but lacked intelligence. I did not think things would get this bad. Malik stepped forward to reassure the people. Everyone, please listen to our explanation. Unexpectedly, the reaction was too violent. No explanations, get them off our ship. As soon as the words were out, he was tied up by the passengers. Wait, run, Saintess Shwena. Shwena was also held by two young men. That hurts. Suddenly, Malik was hoisted into the air. Wait! His scream made her skin crawl. Shwena! Witnessing Malik's execution, Shwena could not believe it. Did they really throw him into the sea? Are they going to eliminate everyone around me just because I ran away? Her face turned completely pale. A desperate thought raced through her mind. Just like that, it is meaningless. Just because I chose them. Suddenly Raffle offered a lifeline. I will take that girl. He reached his hand out to her. Don't be stubborn. Just give up. However, Shwena was resolute in her choice. I am not crazy. I will never follow you. Seeing her run, Raffle spoke with disdain. Which way do you think you can run from here? He saw her climbing over some wooden crates at the ship's railing. Realizing her intent, Raffle rushed over and cursed, damn it. To everyone's shock, Shwena recklessly jumped into the vast ocean. He shouted angrily at everyone, What are you doing? Lower the sails, stop the ship and get her out of the sea. A crew member did not pay him any mind. Why should we save a saintess who betrayed her faith and chose death? Raffle's clenched hands trembled. Damn it all. By now, he had stripped his shirt, revealing his six-pack. Raffle jumped directly into the water without any assistance. The deep seawater gradually blurred his vision. In an instant, he had dived very deep. Raffle tried to see through the gloomy spirits to search for her. And finally, his effort was rewarded. Shwena's figure was floating in the middle of the vast ocean. Raffle quickly brought her above the surface. Shwena, Shwena, Saintess, answer me. Open your eyes, breathe. But the result was the same. Shwena was gone. He could not help but grit his teeth loudly. Curse it. Raffle's hand gently held her shoulder. If the Saintess dies, my life will be no different from what I have been through before. Then he left Shwena's body floating in a corner. As for himself, he dove down into the deep sea once again. I have to start over. Raffle reassured himself, it is fine. Next time I will just be a bit more careful. One more time. I returned to an unspecified point in the past. A man was carrying heavy loads. Suddenly, he discovered an infant with a strange mark on its hand. It had been quite a long time since I returned to this specific moment. The man cried out in horror. How could they do such a terrible thing to a newborn baby? He gently picked up the child. Raffle. Is that your name? Let us go to my home. I had returned quite a long way back. This man, Ethan Winters, barely had enough strength to run a blacksmith shop in his impoverished circumstances. When he brought the child home, his wife bluntly rejected it. If you want to raise it, do it yourself. I won't lay a finger on that child. The woman looking at me with this look of disgust was his wife, Maria. She neglected and abused me whenever Ethan was away. But for me, who had endured much worse things, this did not even count as a hardship. While I killed time in these boring childhood years, Maria said in disgust. You do not cry, you do not laugh. It is creepy. It is disgusting. That moment finally arrived. Raffle approached. Please do not drink today. The man was confused. Raffle, what are you talking about? Raffle announced calmly. Father might fall and injure his leg. Because even Ethan, who had brought me here, would not listen to my childish words. The same accident kept repeating every time. But I did not give up and kept trying every time. Today, please go out and do not return home. Ethan was suspicious. Why? Raffle replied calmly, just saying. Also, father must not sleep on the streets. Ethan's face briefly became unpleasant. In my previous life, he was beaten to death by bandits on the street. So if I said this, he would surely at least go to an inn. A voice shouted, Hey, Raffle, what are you doing instead of finishing the cleaning? From here on, I will find a way to manage somehow. By late afternoon, the whole house collapsed onto the people inside. Heartbreaking screams echoed. Ethan broke down. Mandia. You. The children. Raffle stepped forward and said, they were attacked by bandits. I thought I could subdue them if I aimed for their backs, but my physical strength was still lacking, so it was beyond my capability alone. Ethan scolded him in distress. You sent me away knowing all this. Why was I the only one you saved? You. Why are you the only one still alive? You devil, I should have killed you sooner. If only I had listened to Mandia. With that, he hoisted Raffle up. At that moment, a wooden crate suddenly fell from above. The fatal blow ended Ethan instantly. Raffle felt regretful. I am sorry, Mr. Ethan Winters. I met a strange Saintess and wondered if things could be different this time, but I did not expect you to die from a fall like this. Next time I return to this moment, I will try a different method to save you. Returning to this specific point is rare, so I am not tired of it yet. Rest for a while until then. I have a lot of things to prepare in advance for this life. On a bright, early morning, a servant asked curiously, Who are you? Raffle replied calmly, I am Raffle Winters, Knight Commander of Marquis Hoover Baker's Order. I apologize for visiting without notice, but may I see Baron Hartone? She hesitated, half closing the door. Please wait a moment. Voices echoed from inside. Master, Madam, the Knight Commander of Marquis Hoover Baker is here. What? I never borrowed money from the Marquis. Does he look like a debt collector? Not at all. He is a very well-dressed and handsome gentleman. Really, dear, have we hidden all our daughters? Who should we use to entertain him? Except for the one you threw away at the temple because you suspected an affair. We have married off the rest and cleaned everything up. Raffle sighed softly outside. Arguments drifted from the house. What? You said you were pregnant after I came back from a business trip, you idiot. Can't you do the math? I have told you many times. It happened before you left. Raffle pushed the door open and entered. Excuse me. He stood formally, looking at them. Raffle bowed in greeting. Baron Hartone. It is a pleasure to meet you. I am Raffle Winters. The attitudes of both changed instantly. Oh, yes. Clears throat. I am Baron Frank Hartone. Nice to meet you. This is my wife, Trudy Hartone. A pleasure. The Baron asked, So, you serve under Marquis Baker. What brings you here today? Raffle got straight to the point. You have a daughter you sent to the temple instead of marrying her off. Please allow me to marry that lady. The Baron stammered. What? Who exactly are you? Raffle replied. It is difficult for one who has sworn to be a Saintess to return through normal means. However, I heard they can be cancelled if a relative shows devotion to the temple. As he spoke, he presented a chest of sparkling jewelry. Inside were countless pearls, gold, and gems. The Baron said, I do not think this is enough to take away the daughter I raised with the utmost care. Raffle said indifferently, I have many more things like this. Please accept it, father. After saying that, Raffle held out an exquisite white gemstone. Trudy excitedly took it. You are very thoughtful. I am sure you will make our daughter very happy. I will bring her back immediately, so trust me and wait. Raffle thought to himself, my parents are not those kind of people. Abuse, that is completely preposterous. How foolish. She certainly has a naive, stubborn side. He said coldly, then, I will wait for your contact. Their daughter stepped out of the carriage. Trudy instructed, when you go inside, you must behave politely and humbly. Schwanna replied obediently, yes. She thought, what is going on? This has never happened before. One day, her mother suddenly came and said, my beautiful daughter, I have come to take you home. This left Schwanna bewildered. Who are you? She thought, this is the first time I have seen Schwanna's parents. But since the knights let them through so easily, they must be her real family, right? By the way, Trudy was cordial. Sir Knight, have you been waiting long? As soon as Schwanna saw him, her eyes widened in shock. You crazy pervert, the Baron quickly corrected his daughter. You brat, what kind of language is that for a knight commander? Forget it, do not look for me. Schwanna ran off, leaving Trudy with a bewildered expression. The Baron was speechless with rage. That uneducated brat, Raffle said calmly, please wait a moment. Schwanna ran for her life. Lunatic, you have completely lost your mind. Why are you chasing me? Just go and finish the novel by yourself already. It is best not to waste energy in vain. Raffle suddenly appeared from nowhere, startling her. Raffle scooped her up. I will let you go if you promise to follow quietly. Schwanna resisted. Let me go, you bastard. The Baron was worried. No, carrying a grown lady like a piece of luggage. Raffle reassured his future parents-in-law. I will handle the marriage matters myself, so do not worry. The Baron said, look here, Mr. Winters, regardless, what will happen to our reputation if you carry your fiancée away as if she is being kidnapped? Raffle gritted his teeth. I did not know you were people who cared so much about reputation. His voice turned cold. Compared to people who locked up a child and then discarded her at a temple, I will ensure she lives much more happily. So, stop interfering in my wife's business. The small house was flooded with early morning sunlight. Inside the room were Schwanna and Raffle. A question was posed. All right, out with it. Why are you so determined to marry me? She glanced over and questioned him further. From what I understand, it seems you have been preparing for this for a very long time. Raffle crossed his legs and asked back unhurriedly, if I told you, would you give up on the idea of running away? Hearing that, Schwanna replied just as unhurriedly, fine, I am listening. Let us see just how grand your reason actually is. The other person just spoke calmly as he made a declaration, I need you. The words uttered by Raffle were extremely serious. Even if I have to go through this damn regression loop a dozen more times, I still want to keep you by my side. Only Schwanna found this cringe-worthy factor of his chilling. This madman. She cautiously asked back, so now you are not even bothering to pretend to be shy. Raffle replied while resting one arm on the back of her chair. Yeah, you are right. I am a madman. Schwanna watched him cautiously while he continued. Well, if you want to die, go ahead and die. His declaration was filled with killing intent. Because I will chase you to the ends of the earth. Her response was blatant disgust. I hate to be blunt, but I want nothing to do with you. I have absolutely no intention of living with you. Raffle returned to his seat and asked back, is it true that you have fallen in love with that stupid holy knight? The more she heard him talk, the more annoyed she felt. Can't you speak decently about someone who lost his life in the ocean because of you? I suspected it, but it is amazing. You really are trash. Raffle was not angered by those words. He only mocked her back. Is that really something a woman who toys with men's hearts should say? First a weakling, then an idiot, who will be the lucky number 3. Opposite him, Schwanna's skin crawled. She turned pale and tried to push him away. It won't be you, so do not worry. Why do you even ask? He simply explained nonchalantly. How could I not worry? No matter who you run away with, I will kill them all and drag you back. Hearing this, she thought, so he is serious. This crazy murder. She thought optimistically, well, as he said, even if I try to die to escape now, everything will just repeat from the start. In that case. Next, Schwanna crossed her legs and spoke up. All right, let us settle things one by one, dear future husband. She looked up and questioned him. Why do you need me? Does having me around somehow purify those evil spirits? Looking at this atmosphere, it seems I won't be murdered by Raphael anytime soon. Raffle suddenly made a statement. Even souls cannot be purified. They can only be sealed. Shuana asked back in confusion, sealed. Raffles' explanation followed. If I strike them, I can imprison them within my blade. That is why my sword always reeks of rotting corpses and echoes with the screams of curses. The more she heard, the more curious Shuana felt. Do those things try to talk to you? Raffle gritted his teeth and replied in rage. All they think about is killing, and not just those sealed in the sword. They are everywhere you look. Shuana hesitantly called his name, Raffle. His mood gradually grew more tense. Even if I die the way they want, I still come back, over and over again. A cursed life, forever teased by evil spirits. His gaze turned vacant as he continued to mutter, You do not hear them, so you know nothing. Even now, at this very moment, they are hovering around us. He could not help but snap in a loud voice. They are screaming that they will kill everyone. Shuana's call rang out once more, Raffle. She gently took both his hands. At this moment, Shuana was kneeling before Raffle, asking kindly, Are you okay? Shuana's own face was very tense. Calm down and take a deep breath. Raffle, his face pale, slowly followed her instructions. Then he spoke his observation. When your hand touches me, I no longer hear or see those things. Everything becomes silent, as if the world I knew never existed. A choked exclamation was made, to the point where my lifelong struggle against them feels completely futile. Scornful words from the past were unconsciously remembered. You are disgusting, get out, you are horrible, just looking at your face makes me nauseous. They said that boy had been screaming into the void. The insults echoed in Raffle's mind, You damn devil. However, he only gave a faint smile. At this moment, Shuana spoke up again, Well. She raised a leg and made a serious suggestion. Are you sure you are okay? Is my hand not enough, or should I try with my bare feet? Raffle quickly regained his composure and said, That is enough, let go. Shuana stared at him and continued, Seriously, I was worried about you. She asked cautiously, But are you sure I actually have power? When I was at the temple, no one ever mentioned it. Raffle asked back unhurriedly, Did you actually hold hands with those people? Shuana answered seriously, Well, Sir Michael even escorted me. Hearing this, Raffle could not help but feel confused. Did he really not say anything? Only now did she recall and explained with a sheepish laugh. Now that I think about it, his reaction was a bit strange when I pretended to perform the purification ritual. Raffle's gaze pierced through her as he asked further, And that stupid night you ran away with for love, I am sure you two at least held hands. This attitude made Shuana's skin crawl, so she remarked bluntly, Do you realize you are talking exactly like a petty and jealous lover? Raffle, angry, hurriedly justified himself. I am asking because I am just curious about my own power. Hearing that, she reluctantly believed him. Shuana then unhurriedly wondered, So, are there any friendly spirits, I mean, the kind that do not cause any harm? Raffle crossed his arms and replied, That is a ridiculous question. There are no good spirits in this world. However, she refused to believe it and replied optimistically, Even so, you can't be sure, right? Who knows? Maybe we could make the spirits fight each other and chase one away. Just as she finished speaking, a plate in the distance moved. It fell heavily to the ground and shattered into pieces. Shuana turned pale looking at it and muttered, That gave me a fright. What was that just now? Don't tell me it is a ghost. Raffle replied nonchalantly, This happens all the time. Not a single day goes by where the furniture in this house remains intact. You think a good spirit would do something like this? Her body was trembling uncontrollably, which Raffle had already anticipated. Once she experienced it herself, she would not be able to help being afraid. She suddenly asked loudly, Aren't you going to clean this up right now? Then Shuana even stood up, pointed into the air, and shouted, It is not like you guys are paying rent, so what do you think you are doing? Do you want me to perform a violent purification prayer on you? Pranks should have limits. What if someone gets hurt? Her words left Raffle stunned for a moment. So the ghost makes a mess, and someone else has to clean it up. Next, the ghosts behind Raffle began to discuss among themselves, Who is going to clean? Whoever broke it, cleans it. The ghost child stomped his feet in frustration and argued loudly, I do not want to. It is not fair. We all played the prank together, so why do I have to clean it alone? The noise made Shuana pause, and she had to turn her eyes toward it. Seeing Raffle's face bursting with laughter, she could not help but feel confused. What? Why are you laughing? I am being serious. He looked at her and explained unhurriedly, no, it is just. I have never seen these guys act like this before. Previously, they only looked like black shadows to me, but today is the first time I can see their faces clearly. After hearing the explanation, Shwana's spirit dampened a bit, and she asked cautiously, they were over there. The ghosts on this side were continuously discussing with each other, each preoccupied with a different matter. Sister, why did that person do that? So scary. Don't be such a coward. One look and you can tell she does not have a penny to her name. What does money have to do with it? If we do not listen, I think she will really exorcise us. Even the other ghosts were noisily exchanging words. Chloe, it is dangerous. Come here, child. Grandma, hey, old lady, do not spoil the child. Tell him to come here and clean this mess up. Each of them had a different personality. Stop it, Enzo. Did you forget what I said? We never touch children or the elderly. Where did we leave the broom in this house? Cookies. I really want to eat cookies. Maxian hurriedly denied it when a series of eyes turned toward him after the sound of a growling stomach. No, it was not me. Raffle then looked toward Shwana, the one who had actually made the sound, and was now standing there grumpily. She avoided his gaze and explained hesitantly, I have not eaten anything since I left the temple. Raffle slowly stood up and said, well then. He smiled gently as he held out a hand toward her. Let us go eat before the sun sets, my future bride. Shwana replied gracefully, yes, that sounds nice, Earl Winters. The two of them stepped outside. The ghosts crowded at the window, eavesdropping on their movements. Each had their own reaction to this lovebird scene between them. Oh my, a terrifying person has arrived. You can say that again. On this side, Shwana remarked as the two of them walked together through the streets, do you feel like people are avoiding us? She remembered being bluntly rejected by vendors. I am sorry, we are out of seats. We are out of ingredients too. Then she could not help but cry out, why can't we get into a single restaurant? Then a suspicion suddenly popped into Shwana's head. Wait, is it because I still look like a saintess from the temple? At this point, Raffle slowly explained, it is because of me. He explained softly, because this is before I received the title of war hero, people probably think I am a madman who mutters to himself. There are also rumors that I am haunted. Hearing this, Shwana stroked her hair and remarked softly, I see. You are more famous than I thought. Raffle's thoughts returned to the past. Just as I thought, nothing goes right when I am with you. You are a jinx, get lost, he comforted himself. I have faced reactions like that my whole life. Then he looked toward Shwana. But what is with this woman? Shwana did not notice his scrutinizing gaze, and was just focusing on her own hungry stomach. That sound again. Night gradually fell, and they managed to get a meal. I am glad that street vendor was willing to sell us food. Two figures walked side by side, chatting happily. It is actually edible, is not it? The ghosts were now hiding in a corner, watching and discussing among themselves. I can't hear anything they are saying. Can't we get closer? No. If that woman finds out, she will destroy us. One member spoke up to remind the other, hey kid, Grandma Kate told me to get you back safely, so behave. Got it. The child in front of him clicked his tongue grumpily. Old man. This remark led to a scuffle among the ghosts. What, old man, you little brat? They noisily argued with each other. Want me to send you to the afterlife right now? Don't hit him, until the girl beside them spoke up, Mr. Mopon. She hesitantly stated, I have something to say. Come here for a moment. This made Mopon a bit confused. Me, why? On this side, Raffle was also talking with Shwana. That is right, I only return to the past when I die. Shwana answered while chewing her food, I know. Last time when you fell off that cliff, I returned with you. Her smile gradually became distorted as she continued, once, everything was finally progressing well. Then suddenly I returned right while I was eating, thanks to a certain someone. Seeing this, Raffle immediately admitted his mistake. I am sorry about that. Shwana replied with a forced smile, it is okay, it is in the past. At this moment, she suddenly raised her doubt, so what happens if I die first? Does time stop, and only Raphael can move? He slowly gave an explanation for this question. Time continues to flow even after you die, until the moment I myself pass away. Shwana gave a forced smile and muttered in response, I see. So if... A terrifying question was posed by her. What if Raphael does not die? Shwana remembered the past again. On the first day, she was burned at the stake. Memories of the past kept being recalled, on all the days she died and came back to life over and over again. Then Shwana came to a conclusion. My life could end at any moment. Then she awkwardly suggested, change of plans. I absolutely must not die before him. If I ever do anything to offend you, Earl, I offer my deepest my most sincere apologies. This sudden change in her attitude made Raffle ask in confusion, what the hell are you talking about? Seeing this, Shwana teased, you are not an Earl yet. The surrounding area was now much darker and deserted. Raffle remarked unhurriedly, it is late. Let us head back. Shwana was about to reply when she was suddenly pulled away by an invisible force. Sounds good. Raffle cried out in shock when he saw Shwana being pulled deep into a dark place. Saintess. She was equally startled. No. Raffle hurriedly chased after her. Shwana. Her whole body was sitting on the ground as she explained softly, I did not come in here on my own. He turned his head, looking around and explained, it is an evil spirit. Stay still. The door suddenly slammed shut violently. Shwana was startled and cried out in panic. Are we trapped? Raffle remained calmer and replied softly, wait here. He pushed hard against the door, but it had no effect. Damn it, it is tightly blocked. At this moment, a ghost girl appeared and spoke, do you want to leave? She continued to suggest, if you want to get out of here. Her extremely serious expression contrasted completely with the words she was uttering, you two must kiss. Raffle was completely stunned. The ghosts outside were also completely amazed by the statement. Raffle held his face inside. You are one of the spirits at my house. Stop talking nonsense, and open the door. However, the ghost girl only started telling another story. My sister stole my fiancé just one day before the wedding. She continued unhurriedly, my family was very strict, so I had not even held his hand before marriage. Hearing this, Raffle asked directly, so you committed suicide out of shock. But what does that have to do with me? I told you to get out of the way. The ghost girl presented her reason. Seeing the two of you together reminds me of my old self. Her reasoning was unexpectedly sincere. I just want to see what happens if that relationship continues. The ghost girl slammed her hand down and demanded, so, kiss. She even added, I won't budge until I am satisfied. Raffle's face was cold as he made a declaration. You are completely insane. I will exorcise you right now. Unexpectedly, some white things wrapped around his waist. A ghost child also contributed to the girl's plan. Kiss. Raffle could not help but feel annoyed. What is wrong with this ghost? Let go. Shwana stood on one side and asked blankly, Raphael, what are you doing? What are those ghosts saying? Meanwhile, the ghosts kept screaming, kiss, kiss, the more he heard. The more annoyed Raffle felt. Damn it, how should I know? I did not know they were this strong. Even one of them pushed Shwana. She fell into Raffle's arms. Shwana's face flushed with embarrassment and confusion. The ghosts kept shouting, kiss, kiss. Raffle himself was also dazed. Shwana hurriedly admitted her mistake. I am sorry, I did not mean for this to happen. The ghosts' voices rang in their ears, kiss. Raffle's gaze lingered on Shwana's lips. Quiche. Raffle's cheeks flushed with embarrassment, sweat pouring down his forehead. I must be possessed by that damn ghost. Raffle reached out and caught Shwana. Just endure it for a bit. He thought to himself, otherwise, there is no way I would. This is the fastest way to get out. Shwana still did not understand what was going on. What are you doing? Raffle struggled with his inner thoughts while she continued to call out, hey. Seeing him leaning closer, Shwana quickly understood. What? As soon as they kissed, the door immediately burst open. They were thrown outside violently. Shwana could not believe her eyes and exclaimed, we actually got out immediately. As expected, it was all a calculated move. I thought so. The sound of ghosts arguing rang out behind them. What do you think you are doing in front of a child? They noisily blamed each other. And you, instead of stopping him, you just went along with it. Lucy said she would kill me if I did not help. You are already dead, and you still fall for that kind of threat. You idiot, kiss. Raffle was already so angry he was fuming. If you all do not disappear right now, I will take it as a sign you want to be destroyed. The whole group immediately went silent. Shuana then raised her doubt as he helped her up. So what was that all about? Raffle replied unhurriedly, you do not need to know. From behind, a call rang out, excuse me, you two. The silhouette of a woman with a cane slowly approached. You two just came out of that haunted house, did not you? The old lady could not believe her eyes. They were completely unharmed, not a single part missing. Shuana stammered, wanting to explain, that was. But Raffle pulled her hand to leave. Come here, let us go. There is no need to interfere. Unexpectedly, the old lady dropped her cane and continued, can you two help this old woman? A request was made. I will reward you handsomely. Please, help me just this once.